Good morning, our guests from Nigeria. Good afternoon and good evening from other parts of the world. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Grace Adejare-Ajuwon, the Managing Director of Proshare and your host for today's webinar. Please make use of the chat icon to let us know the location you're joining us from, and feel free to interact in the chat box and share your thoughts with us as we go on. Thank you so much for joining us today. On behalf of the board and management of Proshare, I welcome our speakers and participants joining us today, and we are delighted to have you join us as we discuss the theme, Online Trading Beyond Nigeria, the case for a unified exchange. As the discussions around the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area continues with the aim of creating a single continent-wide market for goods and services to promote the movement of capital and persons, we see the need for us to have this conversation today, talking around the need and the case for a unified exchange, or if you may, the case for a unified trading system. On September 28, 2022, Afreximbank announced the formal rollout of the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, stating that the system will serve as a continent-wide platform for the processing, clearing, and settling of intra-African trade and commerce payments, leveraging a multilateral net settlement system that would also enable the continent save more than about 5 billion USD in payment transaction costs each year when it is fully implemented. There have also been talks and actions around the integration of key stock exchanges across Africa to facilitate cross-border listing and region-wide securities trading. To facilitate this, the African Securities Exchange Association, supported by the African Development Bank, commenced the African Exchanges Linkage project to facilitate cross-border trading of securities in Africa in order to unlock Pan-African investment flows, promote innovations, and support diversification needs of investors and address the lack of debt and liquidity in Africa's financial markets. Thus, this webinar today seeks to weigh in on this subject of cross-border securities trading and the use of technology, especially at a time like this where fintechs currently help to facilitate securities trading on international exchanges to enable retail investors trade global stocks. I'm sure we are all familiar about fintechs now having various mobile applications where you can trade Apple stocks, you can trade Microsoft stocks and the likes. And we intend to see this happen in Africa as well, where we can trade other big and leading firms that are listed on various exchanges across Africa. To do justice to the team, we have with us today Lina, the project manager of the African Exchanges Linkage project. She will explain to us the differences and similarities, if any, between the linkage project and the quest to have a unified trading engine for Africa. We also have with us seasoned experts that will present on key focus areas ranging from technology and trading to trends and opportunities in equities, fixed income, and commodities markets, as well as customer experience. Before I hand over to the keynote speaker and then the moderator, I'm excited to let you know that we'll be giving away hard copies of the online trading report to 5 lucky participants here today. All you have to do is fill the form that I'll drop shortly on the chat box, where you can fill in your names and other details. And at the end of this webinar, we'll choose the lucky winners. Other key things to note regarding the webinar today are our guidelines. One is that if your Zoom volume is too low, please check your system's volumes. If you can't hear us clearly, please just check your system's volume so you can ensure that you are hearing us clearly. Also, like I mentioned earlier, if you need to interact with us, please use the chat buttons. Thank you very much, Yinka Davis, joining us from Lagos State. Thank you, Mr. Abiola, joining us from London. Thank you, Ijoma, joining us from Abuja. You're all welcome. Thank you once again for joining us. And to our speakers and sponsors, CSCS and eTranzact, we appreciate you greatly for contributing your time and resources to make this a reality. I now welcome Ms. Lina Tonui, the project manager for African Exchanges Linkage project. Lina has over 15 years of experience in the investment industry, capital markets, and project management. She worked at US-based investment firms such as Holland Capital Management and William Blair and Company in Chicago, as well as the Nairobi Securities Exchange. She has a master's degree in finance and a bachelor's degree in commerce, accounting, and business administration. Join me as I welcome today Lina Tonui for our keynote address. Thank you. Lina, over to you.
Thank you very much, Grace, for such a great introduction, and congratulations once again for putting together such a great webinar with great discussion. There's definitely a lot of discussion, as you have mentioned, going around about the integration of African markets through the African Union, the AFCFTA, and obviously through different platforms. And I am honored today to be part of this panel. It is definitely an honor to be to give the keynote speech. And so I'll go straight into it. As you have mentioned, a lot of African capital markets suffer issues of liquidity and depth, but then a lot of these markets, they go through this in different stages of development within their markets, and they vary based on the market. So just to go into the presentation, I'll give an overview first of all of the African markets, and then the challenges facing the African capital markets, and then we'll go into discussion about what the African Exchanges Linkage project will do to try and mitigate these issues. So so as I have mentioned, like African capital markets, they've registered great growth over the years and have especially shown, a lot of resilience in the past 2 years, especially, despite the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. And they continue to seek, ways of increasing investments and support economic growth in their respective markets. They have sought ways of, becoming innovative and competitive in the global markets. And but despite all this progress that has been made and all the advances and innovations, these markets continue to face common challenges, although again in varied degrees. Some of the major common challenges include, but are not limited to, insufficient liquidity, as I mentioned earlier. Illiquid markets are associated with high cost of trading, increased cost of raising capital, and low returns. And more often than not, a lot of investors would rather not, they would gravitate towards investing in more liquid markets. And that's why we have seen a lot of investments in international or other global markets. And then there's also the lack of diverse investor base. The low income among retail investors, especially, and small size of private sectors in some of these markets make investors and the issuers scarce. The more liquid, again, it goes back to liquidity. The more liquid a market is, the more investors are attracted to it, and just as well as issuers. because they would rather raise money in a more liquid company, raise capital in a more liquid company, because of lowered costs of investments. Then another issue was limited investment products and security offerings. As you had mentioned, a lot of investors look to diversify their portfolios, and some markets have advanced in this area, but others are still working towards creating more products and providing a wider selection for their investments. So as they seek diversity, again, they're forced to look outside their local markets, either within Africa or outside of Africa. And so this is something that also, AELP will seek to address. Then there's also regulatory blockages and lack of harmonization in, the rules that govern a lot of investing decisions, especially for institutional investors. And so as we go forward, one of the ways of mitigating these issues, or rather or solving the problems that face current African markets, is ways to integrate the African capital markets. Research has shown that regional integration has the potential to help capital markets overcome these constraints. Developing domestic capital markets can also be done through a regional approach, and that's why there's the AFCFTA, which seeks to integrate African capital markets. Not even just the capital markets, but then the African economy as a whole. So this can be done, through facilitating cross-border trading, harmonizing market infrastructure, which, as you have mentioned earlier, will also, be part of harmonizing the trading infrastructure. And then there's also investor education. A lot of retail investors do not know that they can actually, trade outside of their markets. And then there's also removing constraints on capital transactions and movement, because, as we have mentioned, the absence of restrictions on capital mobility increases the allocation of, first of all, local and then international financial resources into the economy. So the African Exchanges Linkage project is a project of the African Securities Exchanges Association and the Africa Development Bank. And this seeks to address these challenges through integrating the African capital markets. So a quick introduction about the African Securities Exchanges Association, ASEA. It is a premier association of securities exchanges in Africa, and it is home of approximately 1,100 listed companies with a total equity market capitalization of about 1.5 trillion. This has it has changed or gotten better over the years. And the main objective is to unlock the potential of African capital markets and enhance the development and global competitiveness of the member exchanges. So first of all, the mission is to engage African capital market ecosystems in order to foster capital mobilization, to promote sustainability and enhance financial inclusion for the benefit of Africa's economic development. So now straight on to the African Exchanges Linkage project. As you have heard, I am the project manager, and we have enjoyed, good support from the Africa Development Bank, and the AELP is, again, like I've mentioned before, is an initiative of the African Securities Exchanges, and it is aimed at facilitating cross-border trading of securities. And in the first phase of the project is funded by the Korea African Economic Cooperation Trust Fund, which is administered by the AFDB. In this initial phase, the project aims to create linkages between 7 African capital markets, and which represent about 90% of Africa's capital market capitalization. So these exchanges are BRBM, which is also a linkage of the Oemo region. And then we have the Casablanca Stock Exchange, we have the Johannesburg Stock Exchange, Nairobi Securities Exchange, Nigerian Exchange, Stock Exchange of Mauritius, and the Egyptian Exchange. So I have talked briefly already about the aims of AELP, but the main aim is really to improve depth and liquidity on Africa's capital markets. And to address liquidity challenges facing African markets, the AELP aims to support cross-border investment flows among the participating securities exchanges. And as I have mentioned, we're currently in phase 1 of implementing the AELP. And so at this stage, it's just, first of all, linking the largest exchanges in Africa. And the primary objective is to, again, facilitate cross-border securities trading between stockbrokers, and then to support creation of new products and securities, and to drive innovation in investment services, and to enable free flow of trading information. AELP seeks to make research and information accessible to, like all the market players, including asset managers, stockbrokers, institutional investors, and individual investors, and to highlight investment opportunities in the different markets, and basically just across Africa. This will be done through the creation of a research hub where information which will act as a repository of research on different companies, and mostly just a one-stop shop of investment opportunities and research in Africa. And back to like raising of capital that I had mentioned before, AELP also seeks to enable cross-border capital raising, and we are seeking to also facilitate IPOs and IPO trading across the different markets. We also seek to develop capacity between the exchanges and to boost collaboration between capital market regulators, central banks, and central depositories. And through the different committees of the AELP, we are seeking to work through different hurdles. And at this point, we also have a legal committee who are and arguments and highlighting shared features of or differences in the KYC and anti-monetary AML, anti-monetary laundering regulations in each market. So they're also researching on blockages and ways to lobby reform on capital mobility in the market. And again, as we work through to be part of the continental agenda, we will seek to support the AFCFTA in creating regulatory platforms to support cross-border trading in services and free flow of investment in African development. So the AELP will, we're seeking to unlock opportunities in African markets, as I've mentioned. In summary, 7 exchanges of this in phase 1, 14 countries, and 1.4 trillion in equity market capitalization, and provide a diverse, provide access to diverse products, including equities, bonds, ETFs, derivatives, REITs, and funds, and other products that are available in the various in the participating exchanges. And this will also give investors access to Africa's largest companies based on all the available companies that are listed and are available for cross-border trading. So now onto the harmonization of, trading engines and trading platform. So the AELP has signed a contract with, or rather AZEA has signed a contract with vendor DirectFN, who are situated in, or rather whose headquarters is in Saudi Arabia. And this is progress that we have made in June. First of all, the AELP Link technology platform is what it is called, will facilitate cross-border trading. This platform was envisioned by IT experts of the 7 exchanges, and they have created this the technical requirements and functional requirements, and basically guided the design and the procurement process for this link. So this link is made for Africa. It's made for the African capital markets. It's made for the African exchanges, and so it is something that will be customizable around the user's needs and accessible to all brokers within the African capital markets. So the operational framework, securities will stay on the host exchange. There will not be, like movement of actual securities, but then traders or investors will be able to trade and invest in different securities in different markets from their home country. So investor would go to their broker back in their country and ask them, I want to invest, for example, in Nigeria, and the orders will be routed through a sponsored access platform. So the sponsored access means that this can be just a broker to broker trading system. It will not go, like a Kenyan broker cannot go directly into a Nigerian market, but then they will be sponsored through a Nigerian broker. So sponsoring broker will put orders into the host exchange and through the automated trading systems, and AELP will facilitate this the transactions. Then information live data will be visible to brokers where they are. I mean, in the different countries, as long as they're participating in the AELP and are linked to the AELP link, they'll be able to view market data for the different exchanges or the exchange that they seek to put a trade in. And then clearing and settlement will remain on the host market. At this stage, we have not, we have not integrated the clearing and settlement process. So the clearing and the settlement will remain in the host market. The payment will be through bank transfers, which remains as a separate transaction. But then, as we have heard about the, AFEX Bank also have introduced the Pan-African payment system. This will be, future steps for the AELP, but at this stage, the payment will follow the current bank transaction. Payment transactions. So as we go into implementation, that is the current phase of the AELP. Yes, as I have mentioned, we have procured a vendor to facilitate this cross-border trading. But then again, we will need stockbrokers and traders to participate in this. But they are the key users for the system, and so their wide participation is key. So participating exchanges, the 7 exchanges that I have mentioned before, are coordinating the involvement of stockbrokers in each local market and working with their national stockbrokers association. Exchanges are liaising with capital markets on regulations and discussions on relevant policy and regulatory authorities in each of these markets to enable cross-border trading. And again, as I have mentioned before, we are seeking to also, limit the restrictions on cross-border trading. And the African Stockbrokers and Securities Dealers Association was launched in 2019, and this will support the AELP and the exchanges. The membership of ASDA at this moment, is mostly stockbrokers from the AELP exchanges, but then wider participation is encouraged from the different national broker association. So brokers will be the key users, as I have mentioned, because it will link their order management system and their trading systems to AELP link, and so their participation is key. And at this point, we encourage all brokers to express interest and to be ready to, join the AELP link. So this link will be an online platform. It will be accessible from wherever, and all brokers will be able to join the link as we progress. So the future of AELP, as we have discussed, is the future is really to integrate the whole of Africa through the exchanges. We want to, bring all the exchanges on board again, so that we can include everybody, because we do not want to, provide a linkage only for part of Africa. But then as we go into phase 2, after the pilot stages, we go into phase 2. We seek to integrate more exchanges and also bring on more brokers. The more exchanges we have, the more, the more opportunities there are for investments, the more opportunities for diversity. And so we seek to integrate all the exchanges in the country. So again, the key target is to mobilize Africa's long-term savings and to, change the culture around investing, and to encourage more African investors to invest in Africa. But as you have mentioned earlier, that a lot of investors are able to trade internationally, especially on like the new different ways of tech trading. And so we want to participate in that and get more Africans to invest in Africa, and to also attract international investors. So what we envision is an Africa that works for Africa, and to participate in the continental agenda. And so at this point, we will keep sharing information about AELP, and we will encourage more and more participation. If you have any questions, you're welcome to send us an email. I believe that my contacts and those of the ASEA Secretariat will be shared. And I would like to mention at this point my colleague, Ms. Furaha Kaba, who's the head of the ASEA Secretariat. And you can get more information on both the African Securities Exchanges Association and the African Exchanges Linkage project from our websites that will be shared. Thank you very much. And I look forward to a great discussion. And if there are questions, which I believe there will be, you're more than welcome to ask them, and I look forward to a great discussion. Thank you very much, Grace.
All right, thank you so much, Lina. Your presentation was fully packed, and some of the key takeaways that I noted is the main one, which is for the Linkage project to encourage African investors to invest in Africa. And I know we all here are geared towards doing that, because we want to see more funds coming to Africa for the development of the continent and our own countries as well. I'll now hand over to our moderator, Mr. Teslim Shitta-Bey, the managing editor and chief economist of Proshare, who will take us through various polls and also bring in our various speakers to discuss this subject and other subjects around trading and the use of technology. Thank you very much. Over to you, Teslim.
Thank you very much, Grace. It's been a very enlightening session so far. Lina has done a very good job of explaining to us the potentials of linking African stock exchanges and other exchanges related to debt and mutual funds and some other instruments in the market. But before I go into the guests that we have, and I can assure you, it's a very rich pot of soup of very special individuals with great industry knowledge. However, Lina raised some issues, and I think I would just like to ride on one or two of those issues. Lina, you're doing a great job at AELP, but there's an issue here. Now, Africa has experienced not necessarily the worst effects of COVID-19, but it has experienced some effects of COVID-19. And the globe generally has seen great amount of liquidity, because you complained about liquidity, that there's not too much liquidity. However, within a post-COVID era, we are beginning to see a lot more liquidity in the system. Is there any particular method by which Africa can take advantage of this global liquidity glut and use it for development of the movement of capital across countries within the continent? Can we take advantage of the global liquidity that we currently experience worldwide?
Thank you.
Hello,
sorry, did you have something else to add?
No, I don't. I just wanted to see whether, given our unique situation, the world has gone through COVID-19, we're beginning to see a lot more liquidity around the world. And I'm asking, how does Africa tap into this liquidity to enhance capital formation across the continent?
Okay, thank you for your question. Okay, so liquidity, like I mentioned, is definitely a key player in the investments that go into whichever market. And yes, as you have mentioned, there has been increased liquidity over the time, but we can never reach a cap. The more work we put into it, the better it is for the economy. And there has also been, it has worked both ways. That we have gotten more investments coming into Africa, but then there has also been, in some cases, international investors pulling out of African markets, mostly because, again, reallocation of capital, reallocation of funds, and, a lot of people lost their jobs, and a lot of industries, were affected by this, and some might have, there were companies that were closing down. So for Africa to participate, again, it's really about information and innovation. The capital markets, stock exchanges in different countries within Africa have worked to, be innovative and find ways to mitigate the difficulties that have been caused by COVID-19. So for Africans to participate, I would say that everybody, like all markets and investors, should seek, obviously, for more liquid markets and participate within the African markets. Again, bring back investments into Africa, bring back, create more knowledge towards the African markets, so that liquidity continues to come in.
Okay, thank you very much, Lina, for that answer. Before I introduce other participants, one of the major problems African economies have faced has been the question of foreign exchange. So how does linkage cross that barrier, where we're talking about yes, we're going to treat equities across the continent, but there will be foreign exchange issues. How are you going to resolve those issues?
So in this first phase, like I mentioned, the payment system will still follow the current payments where, investors have to pre-fund the investments. But then, it is definitely a challenge for cross-border, for FX and cross-border payment systems. At this point, we definitely seek to look at restrictions that are restrictions on mobility of funds and capital between between countries, and also Afreximbank, as has been mentioned, is seeking to look for ways. I mean, with the creation of the Pan-African payment system, it's something that AELP will leverage once that is fully established to reduce the risks of FX. And that discussion is something that we're lobbying with the African Union and the partnerships that we have with other Pan-African financial institutions to find a way to work around that and to ensure that traders from different countries are able to get the most return, even with the foreign exchange risk.
Okay, thank you very much, Lina. Yeah, you've really eased us into the tone of the overall. I'd like to say to the audience that we will have 10 minutes of each speaker educating us on the various topics which they are going to discuss. I must say that I have been a teacher at a point in my life, so those of you who are going to be speakers should understand the fact that I will restrict you to 10 minutes. But I'm sure with the expertise you have, you'll be able to do justice to the 10 minutes which I allocate to you. Now, the next speaker is going to ride on the back of one of the issues that Lina brought out. That is the clearing and settlement issues. If we're going to trade commodities across the continent, we're going to have to find a way of able to reconcile who owns what, when, and how. So the clearing and the central clearing securities system is a crucial element of the issue of capital investment across the African continent. I think there's a brilliant person who I really admire a lot. He's done a great amount of work in the Nigerian system to facilitate an improvement in clearing and payments and settlements generally of equities and debt instruments. Representing the CSCS today, I have my brother here, Abiola Razaq, who is of strategy at the CSCS. Mr. Razaq, the floor is open to you.
Thank you so much. And good morning, everyone. Really appreciate it. It's an honor to be part of this very great initiative. On behalf of my CEO, Mr. Adejare-Ajuwon, we really appreciate the invitation. And let me also quickly seek the indulgence of the participants that Mr. Adejare-Ajuwon sends his regards. Is unavoidably absent just because he has another pre-scheduled engagement. He will have loved to take this conversation himself personally. I would attempt to speak to the topic that has actually been given to Mr. Adejare-Ajuwon in the next couple of minutes. I'm mindful of time, so I'll just quickly go into the conversation. I've been asked to discuss how best to improve financial market infrastructures to facilitate securities trading. And this is particularly important for us because the central securities clearing system, like you know, is one of the key financial market infrastructures within the Nigerian market. We provide depository clearing and settlement for all trades across multiple exchanges in Nigeria. And to that extent, this topic seems to be very important for us as it were. So I would just quickly like to start by providing some perspective around the market understanding of infrastructures so that we're all on the same page. Like you rightly know, market infrastructures are backbones of financial systems. What we do pretty much is to provide networks for all financial institutions and of course, to connect financial markets together. And that's why this topic is quite important in the context of discussing a unified exchange and how best to enhance cross-border listings or cross-border trading activities, both within Africa and, of course, even beyond the African continent as well. So with that perspective of financial market infrastructures like CSCS being the backbone for the financial system, and of course, providing the network through which the capital market operators or other financial institutions within the financial system operate, then it brings me to the two critical objectives or the two critical roles that FMIs are expected to actually play in terms of our role within the capital market. The very first role that to the respect of every FMI, irrespective of the jurisdiction, be it in Nigeria or be it in Africa or elsewhere in the world, is actually to ensure safety and provide assurance on transactions that are done within the capital markets. To that extent, I would like to quickly touch on a few things that we've done at the Central Securities Clearing System, particularly over the last 4 years, in ensuring that we step up the level of security and safety, and we're able to provide assurance on all the capital market transactions that are done within our ecosystem. That safety, we've pretty much invested significantly in technology to ensure the safety of our operations. And that's pretty much has dominated a lot of our strategy over the last 4 years in particular, where we invested significantly in not only technology, but also in people, in systems, and also in ensuring that there's stability in the system and there's effective controls in place to ensure the safety and security of the ecosystem. But I think it's also important to mention at this point that within this context comes also our compliance with the PFMI, IOSCO PFMI principles, which are very critical and important to ensure the resilience of the capital market ecosystem, and of course the resilience of our own operation as well. And I'm quite excited to say that despite the challenges of the pandemic, we've been able to partner and collaborate with all of our participants in ensuring the smooth operations of the capital market. And this has been done, I would say, with the support of the capital market regulator as well, that has also provided that oversight and governance on the capital market. But I think more important for us and going forward is the second part of our role as a capital market, financial market infrastructure. And I think that second part of our role, which is to enhance liquidity, is what I would spend a bit of time to discuss this morning, because I think that beyond the security and the assurance that we provide on transactions that are done within the capital market, we also have a very significant role to play in enhancing liquidity across the multiple exchanges, in terms of also deepening even the local investor participation within our market as well, be it the equity market or the fixed income space or the commodities market, and whether it's for the over-the-counter exchange or whether it's for the full exchanges. And I think in enhancing that liquidity, it's important to mention that we've built the foundation to be able to do that or play effectively that role of enhancing liquidity within the capital market, not just in Nigeria, but of course on the African continent. I think it's quite instructive to say that we're also part of the African Exchange Linkage program, and I'm happy with the keynote address that has been given earlier, which pretty much speaks to the opportunities and the potentials that we actually have within the African continent in terms of the opportunity for cross-border listings, but of course, even in terms of the cross-border trading and the potential to actually have liquidity flow around and capital flows just within even the African continent itself. It should be a lot easier for people to be able to trade the Ghanaian market from Nigeria, and Ghanaians should be able to trade the Kenyan market. Nigerians should be able to trade the South African market. And it's quite saddening today that it's perhaps a lot easier for Nigerians to actually trade and participate in even markets outside of the African continent. Just like the host rightly mentioned, today we have significant participation of Nigerian investors in the US market, in the UK market, but you rarely find situations like that happening for Nigerians participating in the Kenyan market, despite the opportunities that Nigerians might be able to explore in Kenya. You hardly find situations where the Kenyan investors participate in the Nigerian market, despite the diversification opportunity that the Nigerian market offers the Kenyan investor community, both the institutional investors as well as the HNIs and retail investors. And that's why I think the African Exchange Linkage Program becomes very important. And for us as a financial market infrastructure, we would definitely be happy to support that project. We're a critical part of that initiative, and we're happy to support it. And let me just quickly mention that in terms of what needs to be done, I think that there are a couple of things that we need to address within the local market itself, be it in Nigeria, be it in Kenya, or be it in Ghana. And I think that until we address those issues that are actually remote within our separate markets, I think it's important that we quickly address those issues to be able to achieve an efficient cross-border operations or linkage of the African continent, as it were. And I'm going to take about 3 of those issues in the interest of time. The very first of those issues that I would like to actually discuss very quickly is about the fragmentation that we see across the FMIs within the African market, be it in Nigeria, be it in Kenya, or be it in Ghana, or even South Africa. The fragmentation of FMIs within the African continent and within the local market itself. Like I said, it happens in Nigeria, it happens in South Africa. And I think that fragmentation of FMI is something that is very important for us to address. In Nigeria, for example, today, how fragmented, we have a very fragmented market structure that actually limits the level of integration that you see across the FMIs. And this significantly increases the economic cost that you find within the Nigerian market. And what do I mean by that? So what you see in Nigeria today is a situation where an institution like CSCS, that is a financial market infrastructure, is not fully integrated with the ecosystem, even within the capital market, not to talk of within the overall financial system itself. If you go to other markets, for example, what you find, particularly in the developed market like the UK or even Europe, what you find is market infrastructures like the Euroclear, for example, like DTCC. They are an integral part of the overall financial system, and they are well integrated with the banking system. So today, one of the things that we're trying to do in CSCS is to ensure that we're able to integrate the capital market infrastructure, which is CSCS, together with the money market infrastructure, which is the banking system. We see no reason today why, for example, an investor is not able to directly from his bank account fund his capital market transactions. So if I, for example, Abiola Razaq, seek to buy, say, in the interest of just hypothetical, say Zenith Bank shares or UBA shares, for example, or Dangote Cement shares, I see no reason why I should not be able to directly fund my account, my depository account with the broker. And of course, the broker buys for me, and I don't need to first send the money to the broker, and the broker confirms from his bank whether the money is in the bank account before the broker executes the trade. So what you find is all of this process that we have today, because of the fragmentation of the capital market infrastructures or the financial market infrastructures, this fragmentation and this less integration that we see today actually limits liquidity in the market, and it limits the appetite of investors, and it also limits the level of transaction volumes and liquidity that we actually have within the local market, not to talk of the opportunity that we're actually missing in terms of the cross-border opportunities that we could potentially gain from integrating market infrastructures within the continent. But even within the local market itself, we need to enhance the level of integration of financial market infrastructures, be it between NIPS and CSCS, or even within the capital market itself. We need to consolidate the infrastructure. And I think it's important for the capital market operators to see these as something that is very important, and it's a role that CSCS alone cannot really do. I think it's something that all capital market operators, together with the regulator, we need to come together and ensure that the market is fully integrated in such a way that reduces the level of duplication of resources and duplication of efforts that we currently see in the market today. And until we do that, it will be difficult for us to reduce the transaction cycle. It will be difficult for us to be able to deepen the market and, of course, attract more flows to the market. Even within the local market today, what you find is investors today, particularly the youth, they find it a lot easier, for example, to actually participate even in some other markets today than it is for them to participate in the Nigerian market. I give a simple example of digital assets. a lot of youth will tell you today, and which is a reality that we see today, they are able to trade digital assets that are actually traded outside of Nigerian exchanges, and they're able to clear and settle those digital exchanges, those digital assets in hours. But what you find today is to be able to shorten even the settlement cycle in Nigeria, there's need for that level of integration that needs to happen. And that integration becomes very important for us to actually address if we really need to deepen liquidity within the local market. And of course, if we're able to do that effectively within the local market, then the next step will then be to begin to talk about integration of financial markets across Africa. Today, for example, within the local market, we have in Nigeria a situation where FMIs in Nigeria have access to Euroclear, and we're linked with Euroclear, for example. But despite we're linked with Euroclear, unfortunately, CSCS today, for example, is not linked with Straight, which is the counterpart, or which is the FMI for the capital market in South Africa. We're not linked to the peer FMI, for example, in Ghana. We're not linked to, say, Morocco, for instance, in Morocco, and this is something that I think we need to achieve. So what you find today is CSCS has linkage, for example, with Euroclear, for instance, or maybe Straight, for instance, have linkage with Euroclear, which is actually the financial market infrastructure for the European markets. However, within the African continent itself, you find situations where the financial market infrastructure are not linked with each other. And this limits the potential opportunities that we could have seen in terms of facilitating cross-border trade, intra-African trade across the different exchanges that we have. And I think that that's an opportunity that we're missing. And it's something that we need to quickly work on to ensure that the financial market infrastructure within Africa actually interact with each other, and we're able to facilitate trade across the borders within the African market itself, as against just facilitating flows between Europe or between the US and Africa, but we also need to explore opportunities that lie within ourselves, and opportunity for us to be able to facilitate trade, be it between South Africa and Nigeria, or be it between Nigeria and Kenya, between Nigeria and Ghana, and of course the other African markets as well. And I think beyond the level of integration that we need to work on, I think one thing that is also important for us from our perspective as CSCS is also for the financial institutions to recognize the boundaries and to recognize FMIs as independent utilities. So what you find in the African market today, which you don't find in most developed markets, is that there's a very blurred boundary between what financial institutions do and what FMIs do. And this is what tends to create tensions between the financial market infrastructures in Africa as well as the financial institutions themselves. So the capital market operators today, or other financial institutions within the financial system, ecosystem, considers FMIs as their competition, which is completely wrong. FMIs are independent utilities. They are utilities that provide network opportunities for all the financial market infrastructures and all the financial institutions to plug into and to be able to relate and interact with each other. And I think that it is important that the regulators help to define the boundaries of financial institutions as well as the boundaries of financial market infrastructures, so that be it the financial market infrastructures or be it the financial institutions, do not cross those boundaries. Because once those boundaries are crossed, what you find is that there would be tension and competition between financial institutions, between capital market operators and the financial market infrastructures themselves that are meant to be independent utilities. And I think it's important that regulation helps to address this. Likewise, the SROs may also play a significant role in addressing those blurred boundaries that exist today, particularly in the African market, where you find financial market infrastructures trying to play the roles of capital market operators or trying to play the roles of financial institutions, or where you find financial institutions trying to play the roles of financial market infrastructures. And this is what tends to create undue competition between the utilities in the market, which are the financial market infrastructures, and the financial institutions. So that's also very important for us to address, both from an SRO perspective as well as from a regulator perspective as well. I think beyond that is also for us to also leverage on the opportunity of scale. And what do I mean by that? So what you find today is there's a lot of fragmentation and proliferation of KYC database management, for example, in the African market, similar to what you find in product distribution. Financial market infrastructure can actually provide economic of scale in terms of KYC data management. And I think this is where regulators need to come in. This is where SROs need to play significant role. And this is where even the trade bodies, like ASHON, for example, like CIS, and other trade bodies need to come together to actually recognize financial market structures as KYC database utilities that can actually be used in enhancing KYC data management and in gaining economies of scale, particularly in terms of product distribution as well. And of course, in terms of AML compliance issues. I think this has actually been tested in Nigeria, particularly within the banking system. We've seen the collaboration of banks, particularly in coming together to build a KYC utility, which is called the BVN today in Nigeria. And that BVN utility is managed by NASD. I think that has been a very successful story in Nigeria. And that continues to be a strong backbone on which financial market continues to thrive today. And a lot of initiatives continues to be built on the BVN initiative. And I think that's something we need to also bring to the capital market as well, to ensure that the capital market has that rich database utility that a capital market can be proud of, and we can then begin to plug a lot of initiatives, particularly around this unified trading platform that we may be able to explore and begin to build opportunities for people to be able to trade across different exchanges in a simplified manner. And of course, the clearing and settlement institutions can also plug into that opportunity as well to be able to facilitate cross-border trade, not just within Nigeria, but of course across even multiple exchanges across Africa as well. I think in the interest of time, I'd like to stop here, and I'm happy to take questions at this point. Thank you. Once again, we appreciate the opportunity for being part of this program. Thank you.
You're very fortunate, Mr. Razaq. I was just about to wield the big stick, because I know that if I give you an opportunity, you spend the whole day speaking on these issues. I know you, over time I've interacted with you, and I know you're very passionate about some of these developments. One of the things I want to quickly say now is that there will be 25 minutes of Q&As. So those people who have gunpowder can prepare their gunpowder and ask Mr. Razaq the required questions at that period of time. However, we also have a poll. I'll be initiating 2 polls now, and those polls will also stimulate some discussion with Ms. Lina Tonui later in the day. So please, participants, kindly give us your answers to these polls. The first one talks about, are you pleased with the current securities trading infrastructure in Nigeria? The options you have is to say yes, no, I don't know. Again, are you pleased with the current securities trading infrastructure in Nigeria? Your options are yes, no, I don't know. Okay. While we're trying to round in the results from that poll, I think I'd like to just sum up what my brother Razaq talked about, and then basically for me, 3 very essential points. 1, the fragmentation of the markets in Africa, both within the markets and between the markets, are fundamental issues that need to be resolved if we are truly going to build into the aspirations of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement. These are issues I would love our participants to ask questions around. How do we reduce fragmentation and integrate our markets more efficiently? And I like what Mr. Razaq was talking about when he said it's not just about the capital market, it's about the financial market. In other words, the money market needs to be integrated with the market such that we can easily facilitate the movement of capital within the economy and across economies. He also talked about the opportunities that emerge from scaling. We need to grow our capital market. And one of the ways to grow that market is by bringing down all the restrictive barriers and also integrating our money and capital market So it flicks back to the issue of fragmentation also. Another fundamental point, which I think he raised, and I think is very important, is the issue of boundaries. The lack of clarity between whether you're a CMO, a capital market operator, or whether you're actually a financial market infrastructure. That is very important. If we don't have this, we're going to see different institutions competing in places they simply don't need to compete. Yes, I think the polls coming. Yes, we have the results of the polls. 20% of people says yes, Nigeria has very decent trading security infrastructure, and perhaps only a little more needs to be done. But the majority of our participants believe that Nigeria, like 71%, believe that Nigeria does not have the appropriate trading infrastructure to facilitate the goal of integrated capital markets. And then 9% say they simply don't know. They really don't know whether we have the right infrastructure or not. So I'd like to quickly ask Razaq to respond quickly, just very briefly. I'll give you 60 seconds to the results of this poll. Is it surprising that the vast majority of Nigerians and the participants on this particular webinar feel that infrastructure is not up to scratch?
Thank you so much, sir. I think that we're not surprised. And I think that this is part of the things that we believe that we need to all work on. Just like I mentioned, one of the reasons why a lot of people are not fully satisfied or are not also at the action level, we're seeing a lot of investment banks making significant investments in technology to ensure that they make it a lot easier and flexible for investors to be able to participate in the market. I think
thank you, Mr.
the poll is the reality. And I think that it's been addressed.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We come up with a second poll. We have a second poll. And the second poll we asked, would you like to see more mobile applications for securities trading? You have two options, yes or no. Would you like to see more mobile applications for securities trading? Yes or no? Now, we want our participants to respond to this question. Thank you very much. Now, based on what Mr. Razaq has said about the challenges faced by infrastructure, I think it's a great period of a great time to introduce the next speaker, who is also very intimately involved in current payment and settlement systems and is a well-known name across Africa. He represents eTranzact. He's Mr. Emmanuel OGUNJI. He's another brother of mine. I'm very pleased to welcome him to this platform. But before you answer the issue of the day, Mr. OGUNJI, I just got in the response to the question we asked. And we asked, would you like to see more mobile applications for securities trading? The overwhelming answer, it was absolutely overwhelming. 90%. Yeah. Oh yes, we would love to see mobile opportunities to trade securities. And only 2% said no. So, Mr. OGUNJI, does that set a good tone for your discussion today?
Actually, that's what we call trading on the go. Mobile allows you to trade anywhere. Just in your room, you can trade. While walking on the street, you can trade. That gives a lot of opportunity, and we want to see more of that.
Great. So, thank you very much for those comments. I agree with you totally. And I want to ease you into your delivery for today. Could you kindly let us have the benefit of your knowledge, especially in terms of what eTranzact has done and what you think needs to be done to improve the intercontinental movement of capital?
Thank you so much, Tesla. Thank you once again. On behalf of eTranzact, the entire management and my CEO, we want to thank Proshare for this opportunity you've given unto us to be part of this great idea. We are sincerely grateful for the opportunity. I want to go straight into my presentation. I'll share my slide. I'll be speaking to technology as a driver of financial markets transaction. So I'll be looking at a fintech perspective of this. Quickly, I'll run through online trading. Now, it is an extension of the ongoing fintech disruption you can see everywhere, fintech is growing. And this is one aspect in Africa that is receiving huge investment. So it's transforming how we perform financial markets today, everywhere, all the transactions, it's changing significantly. Now, I want to quickly run through the general overview of online trading. Now, the major highlight of this fourth industrial revolution that we are in is actually the rise of digital technology. And you see, it has transformed significantly the way we live our lives. It affects every aspect of our life, from transport efficiency, easy access to food and healthcare, easy communication. You can imagine today, we have virtual social life. Who can ever imagine that a time will come that we'll be having a regular Owambe online and people will not have to converge in a particular point? That's the effect of technology. But you see, this began with the invention of computer, followed by the internet. And now we will have mobile PC in form of smart devices, you know. And you see, the combination of these things has created a ripple effect of innovation across different economic sectors, like in finance, in manufacturing, in healthcare, and all other aspects. So in the financial service sector, the impact of technology is seen in the rise of disruptive fintech use cases. It actually started with electronic payments. Many years back, making payments in Africa happens to be a serious work. You have to queue in a bank. When you are going to the bank, you have to let go of everything you want to do that day. But today, you can, in the comfort of your room, in the comfort of your office, anywhere, you can make payments, you can initiate transfer. So electronic payment has actually made things to become more easier than it used to be. Now, today also, you see savings. Savings can be done on the go, lending, insurtech, and this major aspect I'll be looking at, which is the online trading. Now, if, for example, let's look at this. If I don't have to visit a bank branch to make a payment, why should I have to go to a stockbroker to make a trade on stock markets? Things are way easier now. Now, everybody in the ecosystem, we have all seen that it is no longer business as usual. And because of that, the incumbent stockbroking firms, they are evolving in their strategy. Everybody is coming up with the use of app. Everybody is coming up with use of online service. You have to be available to this generation. You need to be part of this transformation that is going on. Even the newcomers in the industry, they are also coming up with different challenges where cross-border online trading becomes easier and easily promoted. Now, let's look at what are the key drivers of the online trading. Here, I will explore the key drivers behind the rise in adopting online trading in Nigeria. First of this key driver is the market affinity to equity trade. If you can see my chart here, what I have in display, you see that equity trading carries about 73% of the entire online trading that we have in Nigeria, followed by mutual fund, which is 14%, and you have fixed income as 5%, and as low as commodity as low as 1%, and all others sharing 3%. So this tells us the limited consumer literacy regarding various instruments that we have. I think to achieve what our keynote speaker was addressing, Lina, in African Exchange Linkage project, integrating African exchange market, we need to actually ensure that every country we increase the level of literacy that our consumers have. If you are able to encourage individual units, it will be easier to integrate the entire unit into a global environment where you can exchange value. And that's why I think that we should pay attention to educating investors, letting them know the opportunity that is available in trading online and going virtual, doing things you want to do online. Now, what I have here, I have a breakdown that shows the consumer decision-making process when they are choosing an online platform. Every time you want to trade online, these are the things you consider. And the first point that I have here that carries about 44% is the easy trade execution and payment flow. if it's very easy for you to execute your trade without any hassle, and it's easy for you to make payment for what you are going to buy, it becomes easier. At that point, 44%, it means that that's what people are looking for, even those that are trading online. The second that you have there, which is 12%, is the quality of research and reports, followed by the quality of assets recommended, which is 12% as well. 11% is for referral by trusted parties. And we have corporate self-promotion. Despite all the jingle, all the money we spend, it contributes just 6% to what is driving online trading platform. So we have 2% that is coming from market search. So this tells us the importance of payments and easy trade execution in encouraging online transaction. So because of that, I will be looking at trade itself is built on the pillar of two things. Number one, trade involves exchange of value. And that's what security is all about. As an investor, I have my cash, a liquid cash I want to invest, and I want to invest in this particular security. So there's going to be an exchange of value. How easy will that exchange be for me? It's a factor I will consider. So I'll have to look at the options available, like I have in here. We have the online trading and you have the in-person stockbroking option. If you have to choose, you need to consider what will inform your decision making. Now, the second aspect of trading is payments. In exchange of value, where you are getting value for what you are paying for, at the same time, how easy is it for you to make payment? Before the advent of electronic payment, we realize that if I have a particular, for example, if I have a stock of a company today at a certain price and I want to book that investment, but the fact that I have to go and write my check will have to wait for 3 days to clear and all that. Before my check clears, the value of the stock that is changing by the day will have changed. So a lot of investors, they've lost a lot of money because they don't have access to easy way of making payments. And to encourage online trading, electronic payment happens to be a major aspect of it, a key pillar that we are looking at. Now, online trading works because of digital payment infrastructure that enables it. Now, today, online trading is available via main channels. You have it on the mobile, you have it on the web. You see, on the mobile, like the poll that we just took, it shows how much of that people want. Is what I call trading on the go. Mobile trading application gives you enormous opportunity. Number one, to create an investment portfolio on the go because you have access to information. You can do that while you're in your office. You can do that while you're engaged in other things because of mobile devices. So you can make investment. It makes your investment very easy. Not just that, it also provides the opportunity for you to track your stock performance online real time as well. So the mobile has given us a whole lot of opportunity. It has made trading very easy. But you see, the backbone of mobile trading is actually mobile payment services provided by the fintech, especially super fintech like eTranzact. We make mobile payment easy. Today, you can pay once you want to pay on your mobile through any of the channels. It's easy within a second. If you have to book an investment, once you have seen what you're interested in and you are ready to make payment with our mobile services, you can make payment and everybody will be able to complete that transaction within a second. That's what mobile has done. Even the web channel that provides the users with a wider screen experience also makes it easy. Today on the web, you can make card payments. In fact, you can pay. We have products and services that allows you to pay directly from your bank account on the web. Today, you can pay. The payment experience is so easy. And this, for me, I think is what is encouraging online trading and is expanding the scope of the security market as well. So you see, payment is possible on all these channels because of the innovation in the last decade, especially eTranzact as a super fintech that will provide to enable all these transactions, to enable the movement of value from the investor to the security market, to the stockbroker, and to everybody. Like I said earlier, the challenge before now has always been the means of payment, but the fintech coming into the mainstream of the service, it makes it convenient for every player in the industry. In fact, if you look at part of the things we offer, the introduction of new and more user-friendly payment channels, online trading that allow for financial inclusion. Today, even when you are not on the internet, you can still book an investment using USSD channel. You can pay. If you have anything you want to pay for, you have an investment you want to book, with your USSD code, you can make an instant payment into your account with your stockbroker. That life is so easy. Even outside that, you have agent network cut across all over the country. You see, that also gives you the opportunity to walk into any agent network and you can transfer money, you can send money to your stockbroker and make payment easy. Apart from that, you know, everybody, we're all on social media now. We have social media payment solutions that allows you to pay directly from all your social media while you are having fun playing on the social media or doing whatever you are doing. You can easily book an investment and continue with your life. Now, but you see,
we have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. We had finally rounding off. I want to look at the future of online trading, talking about emerging technology that could define the future of online security trading. One aspect of it that I need us to consider is blockchain and DLT. DLT represents distributed ledger technology. You see, if you hear blockchain, what comes to mind is cryptocurrency. Cryptocurrency is actually one use case of blockchain. Blockchain is a system of recorded information in a way that makes it difficult and impossible to change or maneuver. So blockchain provides secured, safe, and easy to use instant exchange of value. What it actually does is a ledger system that allows everybody, just like your database, but this time around is a distributed database. For every transaction that is consummated instantaneously, the next person can get value immediately. So blockchain is something that I think if we bring into this project, this African Exchange Linkage project, leveraging on blockchain for both payments and exchange of value, it can help us to achieve our goal as quickly. Sometimes it can also deal with the issue of cross-border currency issue and exchange rate as well. Once we are able to build that technology and we're able to exchange value instantly, it helps us. And the second aspect of it is AI and the use of robotic advisors. Now, today, you don't have to go to a consultant, an investment advisor necessarily. When you go online, AI, robots today, they get information for you, advise you on the available stock and give you the trend and give you the information that you need to make an informed decision. So these are the future of online trading. These are things that we can use to build this integrated African exchange market, where everybody can just walk into the market on their phone, walk into the market on the web, walk into the market everywhere and consummate transaction. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. OGUNJI. That was a masterful presentation. I'm sure several questions will emerge from that presentation. You talked about the blockchain technology, and Nigeria, as you know, just introduced the central bank digital currency.
Yeah.
Yes, so Naira has raised issues. So blockchain technology and basically the whole concept of the application of blockchain to payments and settlements is an ongoing debate. But we will get there when we come to the Q&As, right? Thank you very much, Mr. OGUNJI.
Thank you, sir.
We are going to our next survey question. Could you please put up the next survey question? Yes, now the next survey question, technology improves the way you buy and sell securities. Yes, no, I don't trade. Participants, could you go now and answer this question? Has technology improved the way you buy and sell securities? Mr. OGUNJI giving us very broad and bright picture of what technology can and has done in the area of payments and settlements. How has it impacted you? Have you been able to leverage technology to actually do your trades in a convenient manner? We would love to have your responses.
So sorry, sir, can you repeat that question?
Okay, hold on, please. Right. What technology improved the way you buy and sell securities? The answers are actually in. I mean, I've got great, brilliant participants. They're just simply wonderful, right? So we've already got the answers here. 72% of participants believe that technology has improved the way they buy and sell securities. And of course, when we talk about securities, we're not just talking about equity. We're also talking about debt instruments. And 9% said no, and 20% says I don't trade. Now, for those who are CMOs, capital market operators, I think this should be of some concern, because even though we have people admitting, 72% admitting that technology has improved the way they buy and sell securities, we have a whopping 21% who simply don't trade. That is a market gap. That's a market opportunity. It suggests that quite a large number of people simply don't trade. So maybe, as Mr. OGUNJI has pointed out, we educate people better, people become more familiar with these instruments, and they see the ease by which they can transact their business. We could reduce that 21% to preferably something around 2 to 3%. But that's just my opinion. Thank you very much, participants, for your responses. Now, the next person who was speaking this morning is a very knowledgeable professional. He's been a person I've had the opportunity and privilege of interacting with on developments in the OTC market over the years. He is the managing director of the Nigerian Association of Security Dealers. That's the former name. It's currently known as the NASD, and he's Mr. Bola Ajomale. Mr. Ajomale, we would love to have the benefits of your experience. Please.
Good morning. Can you hear me? And now I can.
Good morning.
Just change my system. So can I share my screen? I will try to be as precise as possible with time.
Fantastic.
Please confirm, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. We can see your screen. We can see your screen, Mr. Ajomale. Please go ahead.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. We can see it. Mr. Ajomale, we can see your screen. Please go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, so I will be speaking on what opportunities and what trends are taking place in the field, and what's going to be happening to our markets and how it comes into this really laudable program of integrating the markets. I was actually quite excited when I saw the speaker's presentation, because as a country and as a continent, we're sub-optimizing. So this really is a very welcome development. I'll just speak very quickly about what's happening on the primary market and also what's happening on the secondary market. And I'll be addressing just two things: the opportunities and what technology is doing. In terms of the opportunities, first opportunity, and there's a common saying that rather than saying something is a problem or a challenge, why don't you call it an opportunity? So I'm taking that approach. And first of all, the first problem is with data. And I'll take off from where the last speaker dropped off in terms of data. Manually, we've been collecting a lot of data manually, which means that it's limited to a geographical area. recording the data, retrieving the data, using it for any form of analysis always is a problem. I remember a time when we used to have registrars, and before you could get the list of even the shareholders, you had to go to a registrar's office and wait for them to print out this long sheet of who owns what. Right now, especially on the primary market, you can do a digital book build, and a digital book build is not limited by space or time. You can just open it in access to the whole of Africa. Same thing with electronic IPOs. That's recently in Nigeria, we have approved electronic IPOs, and I think that would spread a lot more. Now, with electronic IPOs, when you get past all the problems of exchange control and of moving cash around, I think you'll find that you can open IPOs all over. One IPO can open all over Africa once, and it will be open within a set time period and can close within a set time period, and the information can be shared at the same time. So you actually get, again, better information coming out. In terms of processes and workflows, CSCS has said a lot about workflows and processes. Automation would, and I'm trying very hard not to repeat what anyone has said. CSCS has done a great job, and I think all the other clearing systems, by the time they come together, they do a great job in sharing information, in sharing databases, in the form of know your customer and anti-money laundering, becoming more efficient, becoming faster. By the time they integrate, all of those will be happening at the same time. The last speaker also spoke about blockchain, and right now blockchain would enable the use of search engines and biometrics and automated face recognition, and you can actually do a live ID and store your live ID to confirm your identity. So again, you could be that would speed up your KYC, and that would mean that while you're applying into a new issue or into a fresh issue in the market, you can actually use blockchain to identify yourself and then subscribe to the new issue. Data, it always goes back to data. Once it's digitized and automated, then you can have a central data system that everyone can log into at the same time. Of course, there would be a cost to running it. But again, once you have a shared system, that means that it's going to be a lot cheaper for it to, it'll be a lot less expensive for you to get hold of that data. In terms of the liquid assets, and everyone has them, you've got ports, dams, all sorts of infrastructure all over the place. Once, with the distributed ledger technology, you can actually securitize each of those large illiquid assets into securitized tokens and then sell the tokens. So I could be thinking of buying a token on a dam or an airport in Kenya. For example, I've diversified my portfolio, I've bought into an asset somewhere across the continent, but they can also be traded on one central platform. So again, that's one of the opportunities that technology provides. For the startups and fresh issuers, of course, technology has already enabled crowdfunding, peer-to-peer networks, collective investment schemes. They're being enabled even more and more every passing day. So I think that's going to continue quite a lot as well. In terms of, I'm moving quickly on to the next. In terms of secondary markets, again, the opportunities are even more, and they cover things like trading systems and behaviors, in terms of physical infrastructure requirements, in terms of market regulation and surveillance, and in terms of portfolio management as well. For trading systems, the behavior is changing already. You can now trade through technology, you can trade 24/7 and real time as well. And settlement too can be real time. You can actually trade and get your trade done within on the same day. So real time trading, real time settlement. As the behavior changes, brokers and traders, they're also changing their behavior as well. I stumbled across a company called Greenkey that uses artificial intelligence to enable their speech recognition searches. So they search for a particular name or they search for a particular deal using just talking to the computer, and that finds the deal for them, or it plays back a particular transaction, how it works. And of course, there's something called machine learning. As you have advanced to a certain level, then you go to the next level, and the machines will actually be learning themselves what you look for each time. So you put on the computer and you say, I'm searching for this, the machine picks it up. And next time when you're looking for something similar, it would say, just like you look for this one, this is what's available. Of course, what that does is it makes brokers more efficient. It makes brokers more focused. It also helps investors, but we'll get to that when I get to portfolio management. In terms of infrastructure requirements, you know, there was a time, and I was speaking at the Institute of Stockbrokers conference. I said, you know, there was a time when we used to have a trading floor where, you know, we would walk into a particular location and we had to be there within a certain period of time and we'd do our trades. Well, right now, the trading floor has been converted into a cloud, and the cloud is all over Africa. So there's no reason why we'd be restricted to this trade is, well, we know where it's originating from. We'd actually know the individual who is originating the transaction, but then you can trade from any point into any market, because it's all clouded. So the earlier we get into integrating, using technology, the better this is happening, and it will happen. Business systems. I mean, every time you go into Facebook or you check the weather or anything, you are using APIs. You can integrate all the markets using APIs, where information from one market feeds directly into the other market very quickly through the building of APIs. And that is happening right now as well. So efficiency in terms of speed, in terms of execution, in terms of accuracy, all of that is being enabled right now by technology. Again, you can't have more active, more dynamic markets without the complementary regulation and surveillance that comes with it. Otherwise, it will crash on it under its own weight. So again, you have market replay systems. You've got audit systems that are being built and being put in place now. And I've seen a couple of them that can, you know, play back, and even you can simulate what if this happened, what would have been the result on the market. So again, it's great learning for everyone who is involved in the market, but at the same time, it's also excellent for the regulators, because then they get access to better information and can make better decisions. Again, what it does for the regulators is that just as you have the Securities and Exchange Commission in Nigeria, and you have other regulators in other jurisdictions, they can actually get access to the same information as well. Again, better information means you can track transactions better. It means you can surveil and regulate the markets better as well. You can put in programs to set off flags or triggers, such that when the market hits a certain level, or when a particular transaction or activity takes place, without you surveilling it, and again, we're talking about a continental market, when such a transaction takes place, it can actually flag it and can trigger it off to all the security, all the commissions at the same time. So everybody's watching the same transaction at the same time, saying, let's flag it, let's look at it. Or at the same time, there's been an approval in Egypt, therefore that transaction can take place in Botswana. That is going to be happening as well. On the portfolio management side, again, and I use the term portfolio management to cover retail investors as well as institutional investors. Because of AI and because of machine learning, you can now start making much better decisions in terms of whether to buy or to sell. A machine is not emotional, so you're not really emotional about, should I invest in Uganda or should I invest in Morocco? It's going to be looking for the best deals for you. It will be precise. It will be accurate. It will match it to what you need in your portfolio at that particular time. It's using, again, AI, you can identify patterns, and there are pattern recognition technologies that would identify a particular trading pattern, can forecast prices, and then set off a scan or a trade that will benefit your portfolio. So again, it helps the portfolio managers, it helps investors generally, both portfolio managers and individual investors, to make better decisions. Because we're trading across numerous markets as well, then there will obviously be a need for algorithmic scanning and trading systems. there are quite a few of them that are available right now, and I think they're getting better every single day. Now, what these scanning systems would do is look across all markets. At the same time, all you need to do is setting your parameters. I want this kind of transaction, but you will not have the opportunity personally to look through all 7 right now. But by the time this initiative gets started, I believe that you're talking about integrating maybe 30 markets. You certainly won't be able to look at 30 markets at the same time, but with an algorithmic scanning and trading system, you would actually be able to scan all of them simultaneously, and it would point out the best deals for you, or it would sift out the best deals for you. So for us at NASD, what we do is we have already got all sorts of reporting channels. There was a comment about a mobile app. NASD does have a mobile app. We're integrated with the CSCS at the moment. We have an issuer portal, a data portal, and at the same time, we're also developing a new technology that would, again, I mentioned earlier about securitizing illiquid assets. We're working towards that, and that would be, again, available to the whole of Africa when it gets started. So final thoughts. Data and analytics, they will continue to drive the markets, and the data must be available to all for the markets to be efficient. Otherwise, you'll find that some people are gaming the system. And of course, once there's a game in the system, what it will probably disincentivize many other investors. So again, the technology is available. The whole ecosystem, from the regulator to the retail investor, must find ways of deploying any kind of technology that, well, not any, but the best technology that they can to be able to find the best returns to meet their objectives. In terms of volumes, you will find that electronic trades tend to grow markets faster. In the UK, for example, they've discovered that about 45% of revenues come from electronic trades, and that is growing. So, and there was, I like the last poll. The last poll was mentioning something about being able to trade on your phone. Trading platforms are resident on our phones right now. So with the right technology, we can actually do this. And I think Africa is moving very close to getting it done. So I'll stop at that point. Thank you very much for having me share a few thoughts with you. And this is a great discussion we're having, and I look forward to the rest of it. Thanks a lot.
Mr. Teslim, your mic is still muted.
Really sorry about that. Thank you very much, Mr. Ajomale. I was saying earlier that I knew some things about NASD, and apparently there are a lot that I don't know about NASD. You have moved significantly in the area of integrating technology with your payment and settlement systems, and as well as with your trading systems. And that's very good when you consider how recent the Nigerian OTC market is. I'll get back to you on a few questions later on. But I'm here again, the survey man. We're going to have another poll. Could you please pull up the next poll? Yes, now the next poll says, how would you prefer to trade fixed income securities? Would you like to call or email your broker, use your laptop, or would you like to use your mobile device? The mobile device, of course, is your telephone. Would you like to use your Android telephone, and perhaps even your feature phone? How would you really like to trade in fixed income securities? We're talking basically about debt instruments. How would you like to trade debt? I think it was one of the speakers who was looking at 44% of transactions actually being in equities. But there is another market that is growing and growing at a very decent pace. That is the debt market. So how would you like to trade that debt instrument? How would you like to trade the commercial paper of Dangote, for instance, or a commercial paper of any other institution for that matter? I would love to see your responses on this one. But while we wait for the results of that, oh, okay, the results are quite, they're in, okay. So for all of us, call or email your broker comes in at the bottom with 5%. Some of our participants said, well, you know, we don't mind, you know, to use our laptops. Our laptops are quite nice devices, right? So 29% says they will use their laptops, but we have an overwhelming 82% who believe that they would like to trade their debt instruments by using their mobile phones. And this is not surprising because we saw a similar outcome when we're looking at the equities market. Right, great. Now, in talking about fixed income securities, there's a household name in Nigeria. That household name is FMDQ, where a lot of us actually trade our commercial papers, government instruments, debt instruments, and so on. And associated with that name, FMDQ, is also another great name. That other great name is Tumi, Sekoni, who happens to be managing director of FMDQ Securities. This is going to be a session I'm really going to be interested in because I know that in Nigeria, the fixed income market is still sort of exotic. Yes, we have seen improvements, yes, but at the retail end, it still seems to be an exotic market. So Tumi, over to you. Explain to us how the fixed income market is going to make things a lot better in Africa.
Okay.
The floor is yours. The floor is absolutely
all right. Thank you.
Right. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll just, in interest of time, I'll just go quickly through what I have in terms of this topic. So I'm quite happy to have been invited to speak on the topic, which is fixed income market trading and technology, trends and opportunities at this webinar, and aptly themed online trading beyond Nigeria, the case for unified exchange. The topic is particularly dear to me, given that FMDQ Securities Exchange started out by organizing the fixed income and currency markets in Nigeria. The significance of the topic, however, far exceeds my personal sentiments. I cannot immediately think of anything that could have highlighted its importance more than the COVID-19 pandemic. While the pandemic led to a synchronized shutdown of large sectors of the global economy, including the financial markets, investors mostly moved funds to safe haven assets as volatility in the global markets increased, with sell-offs across all asset classes, including sell-offs across fixed income securities. Despite this initial sell-off, the fixed income markets have played a crucial role in the ongoing economic recovery as central banks around the world reportedly cut interest rates 207 times in 2020. With a low interest rate environment, businesses accessed capital markets and issued substantial amounts of debt securities, resulting in a significant increase of about 66% in corporate bond issuances in 2020 relative to 2019. On FMDQ Exchange, fixed income securities admitted in 2020 grew by 41% relative to 2019. This was instrumental in helping many businesses maintain operations during the pandemic as economic activity and revenues slowed considerably. Given how important secondary markets are to price discovery, liquidity, and potentially issuance costs in the primary markets, the significance of today's event cannot be overemphasized. Technology has changed major sectors, including the financial markets, over the last 2 to 3 decades. The intersection between secondary market trading and technology is, simply put, electronic trading. According to the Bank of International Settlements, electronic trading covers a variety of activities that are part of the life cycle of a trade, including electronic dissemination of trade requests, quotation of prices, communication via electronic communication networks, those are ECNs, or dealer platforms, and electronic settlement and reporting mechanisms. Electronification, that is the increasing use of electronic trading technology in fixed income markets, lags those of other segments of the financial markets, such as equity and foreign exchange. This is due in large part to the complexity of fixed income securities and the traditional structure of the market in which they are traded. And I guess that speaks a little to what Teslin was talking about in terms of how it seems still a bit exotic. Fixed income securities have greater heterogeneity and complexity relative to most other asset classes. While there are about 41,000 stocks in the world, there are millions of bonds, almost all of them with unique characteristics. For example, a corporate may have several fixed income securities in issue, distinguished by their seniority, maturity, coupon, and whether they have embedded options. Whereas the same corporate will typically have only one type of equity security trading, its ordinary shares. Traditionally, fixed income trading happens in the over-the-counter, that's OTC market, organized around dealers, mostly banks, and their network of clients. Trades are done bilaterally via phone, via telephone conversations, between two dealers in the inter-dealer segment of the market, or between a dealer and its clients, that's the dealer-client segment. The challenges presented by these peculiarities include the following: opacity. Fixed income trading is generally more opaque than trading in other asset classes. Details of deals are often known only by the counterparties, and price or volume information is not disseminated to the wider investing public. Due to the market segmentation, quotes and trade prices for the same bond, for example, at the same time could vary widely across dealers. Second is high transaction costs. Such costs associated with finding suitable trade counterparties in certain segments of the fixed income market contribute to increased transaction costs. Another challenge is reduced liquidity. The combination of the opacity and the high transaction costs challenges translates to reduced connectivity among market participants and limited opportunities to trade. Electronic trading, which has become an increasingly important part of the fixed income market landscape in recent years, has been instrumental in addressing the challenges presented by these peculiarities. This electronification of the fixed income markets has been driven by a combination of factors, including advances in technology and changes in regulation requiring increased transparency in financial market transactions. Fixed income markets experienced a major shift starting in the 1990s as ECNs, those are the electronic communication networks, started to gain traction in inter-dealer markets for liquid sovereign bonds. One of the earliest and most prominent ECNs, Euro MTS, was launched in 1998 to address the need to integrate European sovereign bond trading under the common currency without altering pre-existing close ties between dealers and sovereign issuers, thereby achieving market integration, a similar aim to that being addressed by the theme of this webinar. During the same year, TradeWeb was launched by Thomson Reuters, a dealer client platform based on the request for quote trading protocol. TradeWeb is a multi-dealer platform with stakes held by 11 banks that also served as liquidity providers to a pool of clients on the platform at launch. What followed was a flurry of debuts of electronic trading infrastructure in several jurisdictions in both the inter-dealer and dealer client segments of the markets. Some of these included eSpeed and TriTrade for the inter-dealer segments in the US and Japan, respectively, Selic and NDSOM in less developed markets such as Brazil and India, and other multi-dealer platforms such as BondVision and Bloomberg. These developments have contributed immensely to a more diverse market structure in different jurisdictions, greater connectivity among market participants, reduced search costs owing to clients being able to request for quote from several dealers simultaneously, more transparency, and a greater variety of opportunities to trade. In addition to its contribution to addressing the challenges that ailed the fixed income markets globally, the rise of electronic trading has also attracted a new class of market makers. Those are the proprietary trading firms, PTFs. As electronic trading platforms enabled automated trading, which is a common feature in other asset classes, PTFs extended their coverage to the fixed income markets and have grown in significance since altering the nature of liquidity and intermediation in the markets via automated trading strategies, such as high-frequency trading. I must, however, clearly point out that the progress made in the electronification of the fixed income market has not been as uniform as you would find in the equity markets. While electronification of the larger, more homogeneous and liquid government bond markets has reached a level similar to the equity and foreign exchange markets in many jurisdictions, progress in other subsets of the fixed income market has been muted. Although it is still early days, when it comes to electronification and fixed income trading in Nigeria, we have made great strides in line with developments in the global fixed income markets, with some notable milestones, some of which I will briefly highlight. First one is the FMDQ and Bloomberg e-bond trading and market surveillance system, which was launched by FMDQ and Bloomberg in March 2014. So the FMDQ Bloomberg e-bond trading and market surveillance system is an electronic trading system for Nigerian sovereign and other fixed income securities. The FMDQ, the platform provides electronic trading and market surveillance tools for participants, including primary dealers, regional investors, market authorities, and interdealer brokers in Nigeria's fixed income markets. Second one is the FMDQ clients trading, reporting, and surveillance system for fixed income markets. And this was to further drive electronification of the Nigerian fixed income markets. Now, this system called Pendula was launched in September 2017. And it serves the dealer client segment of the Nigerian fixed income market as a platform for institutional clients, specifically pension fund administrators, to transact with FMDQ licensed market makers and brokers. In June 2018, FMDQ, the Central Bank and Financial Markets Dealers Association, deployed a fixed income market straight-through processing settlement solution by integrating the settlement module of the FMDQ proprietary market system with the CBN's Triplet Securities settlement system. This integration facilitated the seamless reporting, matching, and settlement of trades executed by FMDQ dealing members, resulting in a reduction in the frequency and quantum of unsettled trades. Despite these milestones, the opportunities globally and under consideration by FMDQ Exchange for increased electronification and growth in Nigerian fixed income market remain significant. Some of these include direct market access. And this is for existing trading systems to reduce the segmentation in the market and further improve transparency. The launch of multilateral trading facilities supporting anonymous and centralized matching execution of trades, thereby attracting a new class of participants, such as the proprietary trading firms, retail investors who have the potential to improve market liquidity through speed and volume of execution, as well as the associated network effects. So finally, I must say that I'm intrigued by the idea of a Pan-African platform where the most liquid fixed income securities are traded. In fact, the prospect of unifying the fixed income markets in Africa is not only exciting, but possible. This will entail establishing the relevant interconnectivity among securities exchanges, wherein all African fixed income securities can be made available and traded across all relevant securities exchanges by leveraging technology. Achieving this will, however, present a unique set of challenges. Among others, some key considerations are exchange rate misalignment across African markets and unification of the markets without altering existing relationships between primary dealers and sovereign issuers. Whatever the challenges may be, however, I do not consider them insurmountable. And that again is why this webinar is quite good that is happening now. And we have all the different sort of participants in the markets, coming together to speak to how we can further develop this and move things forward. Thank you for your attention.
Oh, thank you very much, Jai. I'm sure that a lot of the participants are going to ask some questions. Like I said, the exotica in fixed income securities is absolutely amazing. And I'm interested in that aspect where we can trade fixed income across the African continent, identify opportunities, look at the country risk analysis across continents, see which kind of fixed income securities are A, B, C, or whatever. It's going to be tremendously interesting to see that development happen. And I'm really delighted to see how far FMDQ has come with the fixed income market in Nigeria and the settlement systems we put in place. But the real goal is Africa. So we will ask questions of FMDQ on how you're integrating with Africa. Right, so from one very brilliant financial person to another brilliant financial person. The fact that they're both women excites me a lot, shows you how far Africa has gone in bringing women up to scratch in terms of financial management. Now, Mr. Survey is here again, so I'm going to ask another quick question. Do you trade in commodities? The simple options we have is yes, no. Now, why are we asking this question? We all know about equities. We all know about debt instruments, such as Tumi has enlightened us about. However, how familiar are we with the commodities market? Wheat, corn, soybeans, cocoa, and other commodities that range from palladium to silver and gold. Do you trade in commodities? Yes or no? I want our participants to go now and do me proud, as you have done since the beginning of this webinar. Now, while we wait for the results of that, I want to introduce to the participants. Oh, the results have come in. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Now, I'm sure the next speaker will be a bit alarmed by the results. Do you trade in commodities is the question. The answer is yes. 14% of our participants answered yes, and only, and not only, sorry, 86% gave a thundering no. So I'm going to introduce a very interesting person, very knowledgeable about the commodities market. That is Mrs. Olwafunto, yes, Olasemo. Yes, sorry. I'm sorry about that. Mrs. Olasemo has talked at various fora on the importance of the commodities market. And at a time like this, the commodities market has its significance. When you consider the fact that countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire are primarily commodity-oriented countries and economies. So, Mrs. Olasemo, your polls are exciting in the fact that we have very few people trading in that market. And I think this is a grand opportunity for you to educate us all and to portfolio towards commodities. The floor is yours. Please take us through it.
Okay, confirm you can hear me and you can see my screen.
Well, yes, we can see your screen, and yes, I can hear you. I hope all our participants can also hear you. You can go ahead, please. So,
very interesting feedback from the poll. I'm actually excited that at least more than 10% currently trades commodity, given what we've seen in the last 12 to 24 months. I want to say a big thank you to the organizers of the event for bringing AFEX in on this conversation. I've listened to all the speakers, and at some point I was feeling like an odd one out. Everybody had something to say about what they're doing across the African integrations, their work with other commodities exchanges, and there's also the ASEA. And I'm wondering, where does commodity come in all of this? Let me start the presentation by just taking us on the journey. So for us to understand commodities trading, I think we need to understand where commodities trading all started from, right? And when I was putting together this slide, it actually broke my heart to see that commodities trading that has been in existence long before we could start talking about stocks and bonds trading seems to be lagging behind in terms of technology advancement and opportunities available to both retail and institutional investors. Again, trading technology is as old as, say, human being, depending on which school of thought you belong to. And when you look at the evolution and civilization of the human race, you see commodity trading and exchange of commodity at the core of it. So very briefly, you could trace back to, say, between 4,500 and 4,000 BC, where you had the first exchange of or trading of commodities in Sumer, where you now have as modern Iraq. What happened at that time was that there was a clay tablet that on top of the tablet, the quantity of commodity, the price, and the date of delivery was grafted on top of that clay and then put into a clay vessel. The clay vessel was serving as the envelope. And then that was what marked the beginning of commodities trading. If we look at today, you can pretty much relate that to, say, your forward contracts or your futures trading. And then from there, we could talk about the classical civilization where people were exchanging gold and silver as a means of exchange. And up until recent times where you have the CBOT. CBOT is the Chicago Board of Trades that was established in 1864. And it was primarily set up for the trading of soft commodity. So in classification of commodity, it's suffice to say that you typically would have two broad categorization of commodities. You have your soft commodities and you have your hard commodities. Your soft commodities would typically be everything that you either grow or you breed. So your livestock, your agricultural products would typically fall under your soft commodities. While your hard commodities is any commodity that you extract from the ground or you extract from another natural resources. So you would typically have energy, crude oil, and your precious metal under such. So the CBOT in 1864 was actually set up for the trading of soft commodities. And it has to do with the railway linking Chicago and New York. So that was the story behind setting up the CBOT. And then, of course, going from the very simple exchange of commodities to very complex pricing of commodity in terms of creating commodity as a financial instrument. What that then led to is that after there's been transaction of over a number of commodities, we then began to track the price. And price is actually a unifying force when you look at fragmented markets. So around the 90s, you started having index funds, you started having different commodity price indexes that are then now traded. So if we come back to Nigeria, I will fast track it to 2014, where we have AFEX Commodities Exchange licensed by the Securities and Exchange Commission. And the goal was to then create a way of securitizing commodity and then make them an alternative investment asset. So again, still looking at the global trend, this is just pretty much giving you data. The topic is saying trends and opportunity, but if you don't know what is happening in terms of data, you will not be able to trace where are the opportunities. So if we look at the global commodities market, you would see that agriculture and energy seems to be the one leading the bulk of what is being traded. And jointly together, they make up over 60%, about 68, 69%. And what that tells you is that commodity is core to human existence. Commodity is core to the development of the economy. Commodity contributes to the real economy. And there's no way any country would develop or it will become significant in the scheme of things if you do not have your commodities market developed. If you look at the big empires that you have in existence today, all of them grew on the back of trading of commodities. Another interesting data point that I would like to look at would be who are the top commodities markets in the world. Unfortunately, we don't have any African country there. So you have the London Metal Exchange, and then you have the MCX, which is the Malta Commodities Exchange in India, and you have the Dalian Commodities Exchange, which is in China, and that controls about 2.2 billion volume of contracts traded annually. Again, if you look at what also happened within the global landscape last year, looking at COVID and the rest of them, COVID actually taught us a new normal. There was significant break in the supply chain, and a lot of the producers and the manufacturers had to start rethinking how they will procure, aggregate, and then process the commodity that they need for their operations. And some part of the world actually enjoyed and benefited from this. And then we could see that in the graph below, talking about the commodities derivative traded between 2016 and 2000. You could see that surge around that year 2000, which is the COVID year. And one of the things was that because of the uncertainty that now happened on the supply chain globally, a lot of processors then started leveraging on derivative and futures contracts to be able to hedge their prices and then minimize their risk exposure. Again, the Asian and Pacific region experienced a significant surge in the volume of transaction that went up in their market. And then America and the emerging markets still at a very low level compared to the Asian Pacific region. Okay, so enough of talking about what's happening in the world. Let's come back to our local market. One of the biggest setbacks of commodities trading in Nigeria, and not just in Nigeria, even within the Pan-African region, is actually the availability of data. And a lot of the speakers talked about the importance of data, and we cannot overemphasize or overflow the importance of data. So I deliberately put up this graph to let us show, or to help us to see what is the volume of transaction, or what's the volume of commodities that are being produced locally. I know that in the last 12 months, say since COVID happened last year, there's been an unprecedented high prices of foodstuff, and then the food inflation has been extremely high. But a lot of us didn't understand what was responsible for it. And a lot of us did see the opportunity in it. What a lot of us experienced was on the price taking side. We're suffering the increase in the prices, but we just didn't benefit from any of the opportunities that it provided. Now, for most of the commodities exchange, we have about 5 commodities exchange licensed, the Securities and Exchange Commission in Nigeria. What would be interesting to know is that most of us still are within the agri sector, right? And again, it is not unusual. If you look at commodities exchanges 30 years ago, they typically started with the agricultural sector, and then as they evolved, they become futures or derivative markets. Again, commodities trading in Nigeria is still at the nascent stage, so we're just pretty much following the normal cycle of how commodities exchanges would evolve. So AFEX is the only point of data that I have, so I'm just presenting this data from an AFEX perspective. Look at the core grains that drives bulk of the commodity transactions in Nigeria. We're talking about maize, soybean, rice, sorghum. Combined together, the total annual production of these grains falls about 20 million metric tons. One interesting thing we all need to know that for most of these commodities, as you would see in the graph, there is a deficient supply-demand dynamics, meaning that we produce less than we need to produce. So a lot of time we import to augment whatever local production that is happening. And the reason why we have that deficiency is because we are largely a smallholder farming community, one. Secondly, we have very heavy reliance on rain for our agricultural produce. So what that then means is that we only produce for most of the crops once a year. We don't produce all year round. And that's, we can see when you come to the price trend, you would see that between 2000 and early 2000, when you had the COVID, and up until now, for all of the commodities, you have unprecedentedly high prices. And again, we all, even if you don't know the cost of these raw commodities, we all felt it. Prices of bread went up, price of egg went up, even pure water, you can't even get it to buy at 5 naira again. So this is because of some dynamics that happen within the commodity space. Question is, how many of us are aware of this, and how many of us benefited from those price movements? This is what happened on our own exchange during the period where you had unprecedentedly high prices movements in the commodities. So we also saw deals. Hello, can you still hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you? You can continue. We can hear you. But it's freezing up. Hello, Funto. Funto.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. There's an echo and your screen is freezing up.
Oh my word, that should be the internet. Is it better now?
Yeah, we can hear you at least, so you can continue. But you have
okay.
2 minutes.
Oh, sorry about that. So
I can't be aware that you have 2 minutes. Yes.
Okay, I'm having some internet. I'm actually joining with 2 devices, and the device where the presentation is on just lost connection. Okay, I'll just speak through and then let's not bother about.
Speak through. Yes, you can just speak through.
So locally, the surge in prices also for us as an exchange also resulted in increase in transaction that happened on the exchange. The interesting thing was that for people that then invested in commodities as alternative asset class, they also experienced very interesting return on investment. We did an analysis of what's the historical price performance for our market between 2016 and 2020 was. And we realized that on the average, trading maize contracts returned about 32% return on investment, trading soybean returned about 33%, and trading paddy rice returned about 18%. Again, when we then also compared the performance of the commodities market with the traditional equity market, we realized that our AFEX commodity index actually outperformed the NSE all share index by about 20% over a period of 4 years. What that meant is that the AFEX commodity index on the average over a period of 4 years did about 33%, while the NSE all share index did about 12%. So imagine if an investor is taking has diversified their portfolio by having commodity as part of their portfolio. What that then means is that on the average return on the investment will be better off than just having the traditional, whether it's just the equity or the money market instruments in their portfolio. And so one of the things we also learned in the course of having our products in the market is that I agree with you. The poll also showed it in terms of the knowledge. A lot of what we're doing at this stage is also doing capacity building by having series of webinars to educate people on the potential of the commodities market. And if you look at it from even a global landscape, commodity is now an investment strategy used even by hedge fund managers to improve the performance of their portfolio. But again, the knowledge gap is still there. And we're doing so much on our side in terms of market education and also introducing very simple mobile app that allow people to download. We have a mobile app called COMEX, very easy to use that individuals can download. For broker dealers that are onboarded on our platform, they can just pretty much through an API connection, connect their order management system, and then right from whatever interface they provide to their clients, their customers can trade. In terms of product availability, we constantly go through innovation to ensure that we can securitize some of these physical commodities. Because again, what makes your physical commodity tradable, the gap between your physical commodity and it being tradable, is securitization. So we're doing lots of investment into creating products that is available to the market, both to the retail and the institutional investors. At the moment, we have about 5 products. Some of them mimic your variable income, in which you can buy at a certain price, maybe buy low and sell high, while others mimic your fixed income instruments, where if you were a bit risk averse, you could then just buy into that because it has a guaranteed return and it has a guaranteed tenure for maturity. I think at this point, let me just stop here and we'll take other questions. Sorry about the slide freezing.
Okay, you're really lucky, Funto. I'm sure you saw that I was looking at you with my side view that I was just about to stop you, and thank you for your timing. It was absolutely excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm a postman. You know, when you look at Proshare, most people know about our data-driven services. So I'm going back to my survey. The survey is back. So up with the next survey, please. Right, the next survey is, how responsive has your broker been? Now, whether that broker is an equities market broker whether it's been a broker in the debt market or the commodities market, how responsive has your brokers been? The options you have is very responsive, fairly responsive, not responsive. So my wonderful participants, let's do our polls. Let's get our fingers itchy and start answering this question. How responsive has your broker been? Very responsive, fairly responsive, not responsive. While you answer that, there's an aspect of the business of the day that is very interesting and important in my personal opinion. And that is the issue of experience, the consumer experience, the customer experience. How does the customer fit into all these things? We're talking about issues concerning regulation. We're talking about things concerning infrastructure. We're talking about the variety of products we're offering. But those who are going to use these products, those who are going to be the chief beneficiaries of these infrastructure, how do they experience services currently on the continent, and how do we intend them to experience it? One of the things that seems to be important from what most people have said here today is the fact that we need to reimagine the African financial market. We need to re-strategize that market. We also need to be planning. Obviously, there are severe gaps. Those gaps need to be closed. Funto just talked about the commodities market. I'm sure Lina will be talking to us about that, because from what I've seen so far about the AELP, the only thing that we've done really is to drive forward equity and debt. Now, the commodity seems to be taking the back seat. And I think it's an important market for the purposes of diversifying investment portfolios. So Lina, maybe you'll address that later on when we come to the Q&A. Now, the results are in. And these are quite interesting. We asked the question, how responsive has your broker been? 37% said their brokers have been very responsive. Then we have 52% saying fairly responsive. And then we have 19% saying not responsive. What that does seem to suggest is that those who use brokers are fairly well attended to. That the brokers in Nigeria, at least, have done such a good job that the people who use their services are fairly pleased. How better? Because we would want to see a situation where very responsive moves up to 52%, and perhaps fairly responsive comes to 37%. So very is the critical variable here. But I don't think we're doing too badly, because if you add the two together, we're saying that 89% of respondents are fairly pleased with the speed and the quality of service they're receiving now. I think that's a good note to introduce the next speaker, who is actually the managing director of CFS West Africa, is Rolu Adebola. Rolu, you've seen the results of our polls. Does it sound alarm bells, or does it give you some sort of encouragement about the quality of service delivery in the equities, debt, and commodity markets? Hello, Rolu.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you very much.
You saw our polls. Does it excite you in any way, or does it give you a bit of concern about how well we are delivering services? Because you're talking about experiences of people who are taking advantage of the services the various actors in the market are delivering.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shitta-Bey. That's an important point. Of course, I'm excited seeing the results. I think that even given the state of the industry, the results that we're seeing, even fairly positive, you know, I wouldn't have been surprised if it had been worse. The core issue in terms of service delivery and what we call customer experience, in terms of satisfying the customer, connecting with the customer, is germane to what we're discussing today. And people understand service failures, but they don't understand failure of satisfaction, or if you like, failure of customer connection. And that failure is a deliberate problem in the industry. And if you like how people would say in the local parlance, if you fail to plan, you're definitely planning to fail. And so the way we go about the service delivery and a lot of our activities we perform in the industry is, if you like, a way that we're planning to fail by failing to plan. So I'll speak a bit more about that. I'll speak a bit more about that as we talk about this very extremely important topic, not just for the African exchange that you're looking at, but and the platform, but for everybody here as well, in terms of our businesses, in terms of our individual, projects, companies, and endeavors. So I'll just share my screen and just dive right into it before Mr. Shitta-Bey. Perfect. So yeah, customer experience is a critical element for platform development. That's all I'll be speaking about. So we have this approach to our development where we say that if you build it, people will come. But is this true? We're going to be talking about user experience. We're going to be talking about customer feedback. We're going to be talking about vanity metrics and a couple of other things like that. Startup, I'd like to start by, telling us a story. A gentleman was at a session and he says, look, he builds a house, but he needs to design the entrance to the house. And, people should tell him how he thinks he should design the entrance to the house. So a lot of the participants were like, oh yeah, you should get the best practice for how to design the entrance to such houses, which is a good answer. Another one said, you should think about the most accessible road or path to the house, and you design it that way. Another said, look, you need to look for similar houses and see how they design the entrances to the house. Another one said you need to consult with the experts and then you design the entrance to the house. So he told them, he said, left to him, what he will do is that he will build the house and not design the entrance and leave the house that way, for a while and watch how people are choosing to enter the house. And by tracking the way people choose to enter the house, that will determine where and how he would place the entrance. And that is the core of the idea and the concept of customer experience and design. We find out that most times when we're designing platforms, we're checking best practice, we're downloading samples from China, from America, from Europe, we're talking to experts, we're doing every other thing we should do, apart from engaging the customers, apart from engaging the end users, apart from understanding the behavioral characteristics of the end users. So what is customer experience? The concept of customer experience has been defined as the quality of all of a consumer's encounters with the company's product, services, and brand. And the challenge for us as platform developers today is how do we translate this CX into our strategy? People want unified, smooth, continuous interactions with brands that they follow, and that puts technology at the center of that delivery. But how do we design that technology that it achieves that purpose? And that is the critical issue. So CX is a critical element of anything we're doing. We're designing platforms and expecting uptake. What is going to lead to uptake? You have to plan. Before you start, you have to plan in, you have to work in, you have to design in the users, not just users' requirements, but users' preferences, and most importantly, users' behavioral characteristics into that. So user experience in that sense is everything. Apple's hardware and software are great examples of how a consistent visual identity creates loyalty. Why? Because they don't want to experience something here today. Learn another process on another platform. Learn a different process on another platform. So you need user feedback. You need user behavioral, customer behavioral expectations. You need to know those things. So talking about this platform for, the African exchange platform, and you're looking at a situation where we have what we call primary end users and secondary end users. So the primary end users, for what I can say, are brokers. And then we start with that. Hopefully sometime down the road, like the guys from eTranzact and others have said, We're going to be having accessibility, maybe direct from, secondary users or secondary consumers, in this case, individuals, people, youths who want to bring out the mobile devices and just, make a trade in Egypt, make a trade in South Africa, make a trade in, in Ghana. And that is the sort of architecture, that is the sort of planning that most applications today have. So Nigerian youths are buying Bitcoin on exchanges across the world, different exchanges, just by downloading the app and being able to, register and start trading. They can buy, they can sell at ease. When you talk about liquid markets and markets being deep and liquid, that's where it gets to a situation where not just the wholesale buyers, but the retail buyers are able to participate in that market. And then you can deepen the market, you can increase the liquidity. But how are you going to get them to uptake? How are you going to get them to adopt, your technologies? How are you going to get them to adopt your initiatives? And this is an area where most companies are struggling. You find a lot of companies coming up with applications, coming up with initiatives, coming up with devices, and coming up with a whole lot of systems and platforms, but the adoption is low. The level of adoption is low because they did not plan in, the customer at the beginning. And the user data that they used was insufficient. Sometimes we just run a survey. A survey is very important in understanding requirements and preferences, but studying user behavior and understanding user characteristics are also very important, because sometimes some things have been torpedoed just because of cultural preferences. So you need to act fast. You need to get customer feedback. You need to put that into the system. You need to stay consistent with it. It's something that is a continuous process, but you need to know how to go about it. One of the ways that you understand this is like we ask our customers, we surveyed our customers, but sometimes in understanding the connection of your platform and encouraging the uptake and adoption, it goes a lot beyond just surveying the customer and asking the customer. So if you look at groundbreaking initiatives, platforms, and products that have come up over the last century, over the last decade, they were things that the customers were not aware of. So if you go to a customer and you're describing say an iPad or an iPod or an iPhone, they've not seen stuff like that before. They'll tell you, "Oh, I want a better keyboard. I want a more responsive keyboard on my mobile device." But people who understand by studying the interaction of people found that the sort of inputs into their phones will be better served by touchscreen rather than a physical keyboard or keypad. And so Apple designed the iPhone. What am I trying to say is that new and groundbreaking initiatives that are going to lead to adoption, lead to excitement, lead to uptake among people is usually something that customers are not initially aware of. So if you go to ask them and you take their feedback, you will just be one step along the way, and a good step it is. But if you really want to go the next step, if you really want to go that extra mile to actually ensure that you build something that is dynamic, that is acceptable, that is adopted, you have to go beyond customer feedback. And you have to know how to structure customer feedback as well, so that you're actually ensuring connection with the customer. So CX is not just... Yeah, that's fine. Yes, CX is not just about metrics. It's not just about our own metrics that we're trying to push on people. CX has a lot to do with planning in the entire system on the development of a platform, such that we're accessing customer behavior, we're accessing customer understanding, we're accessing customer characteristics, and we're accessing customer feedback. And we're using that in a meaningful way to design and redesign our products such that we can get adoption from the customer. And this also has to do a lot with our own organization and the way we're structured. So many organizations are not also structured to deliver this sort of value because it just goes beyond the engagement with the customer. It also has to do with an internal design of our own processes, such that we're able to access, interpret, and then respond appropriately to customer data and customer characteristics. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rolu. That was brilliant. I love timing. I love the content of what you were saying. I think it's very critical. I think Lina needs to address this issue when she's looking at the question of integrating African exchanges. The consumer experience is very critical. If you want to create greater amount of liquidity and if you want to deepen that market, you've got to give the consumers what they expect, right? So, and it just goes beyond polling. It goes to several things that Rolu has said. And I hope participants will make reference to this while they're asking questions later on. Now, I would like to say something. This webinar wouldn't have happened at all if not for two organizations. Every organization that has appeared here have been important, and we are very thankful for your presence. But two organizations in particular have shown great support for this webinar. The two organizations are the Central Securities Clearing System, CSCS, and eTranzact. So I'd like to crave your indulgence to give these organizations 2 minutes to give us some message about what they do and where, more importantly for us, where they're taking us to in the African Union. CSCS, my brother, I'm really excited to hear what you have on offer for us.
Thank you so much, and good afternoon, everyone. Just to quickly say that in just 1-2 minutes, to say that for us at CSCS, our strategy over the next couple of years will be focused on efficiency. It will be focused on collaboration with our participants. We want to deepen the market, and in deepening the market, we believe that the responsibility that we have alongside the regulator, as well as other financial market infrastructures, as well as our participants. So for us, what you'd most likely be seeing from CSCS is more of partnership, trying to ensure that we integrate our systems together with our participants and ensuring that we drive investor education. And that's why we appreciate the initiative of Proshare in putting together this webinar. And this is going to be one of those partnerships that we'll have with Proshare going forward, all things being equal, just to ensure that we not only educate the market, but we also bring other market participants to the market to be able to discuss critical issues that affect the growth of the Nigerian capital market and the African market as a whole. And more importantly, is also the fact that we would continuously invest in people and technology, just to ensure that as we build those systems, as we begin to educate the market a lot more, as we begin to drive advocacy for more and more reforms around the financial markets that would help to unlock a lot of potentials that we see out there. We would also ensure that we continue to invest in our systems, just to ensure security of our platforms, and also to ensure that we give people that assurance that all transactions that are done in the market will be cleared and settled without any concern as to any counterparty risk or any risk management issues that people might be concerned about. So for us, it's more collaboration. You would also see a lot of automation from CSCS, and I'm happy to say that we're already working with a number of our participant group, particularly the broker community, as well as custodians and registrars, to actually automate some of the processes that we think would make life a lot more easier and would excite a lot more people to be able to trade. And that's why I said the reality of the pool that we saw around the way market structures are and the flexibility of investors to be able to trade and effectively get value for their trade. We're not surprised, and that's why we're working with all the different stakeholders to ensure that we improve on the level of investor experience. We believe strongly that beyond the opportunity that this market presents to foreign investors, we believe that there's significant opportunity to deepen even local investor participation, particularly around retail investors, which we think is quite critical for us to be able to work on in the Nigerian market. The last speaker rightly said, Mr. Adebola rightly said, that technology would play that role. And of course, for us, it's not just about equities market. We're looking at potential opportunities for retail investor participation in the fixed income market, in the commodity space, again, because we're also the clearing and settlement institutions for the commodity exchanges in Nigeria, like the Lagos Commodity and Future Exchange, as well as the Nigerian Commodity Exchange, which is undergoing significant restructuring. So I think a lot of excitement for us out there would be to continue to work with the different participants to deepen the market and, of course, improve investor experience. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abiola. That's a very wonderful and concise statement that you've made. Next will be eTranzact. I think that they have a video, if I'm correct. Emmanuel, my brother, are we looking at the video? Are you making a presentation? But you have 2 minutes, whichever platform or format it is.
Let's look at a video. Let's go with the video.
Okay, right, great, thank you.
We are Africa's leading payment service provider to financial institutions, government parastatals, and other corporate bodies. Do you know that since 2003, we have been at the forefront of providing and enabling all forms of payment on behalf of our numerous customers, spanning all sectors of the economy? Do you know that we are the first operational multi-application and multi-channel electronic transactions switching and payment processing company in Nigeria? Do you know that we have been enabling Nigerians and Africans in diaspora send money back to their families? Do you know that we pioneered the USSD payment solution in Nigeria and created other innovative payment channels? That we are the award-winning agency, banking and financial inclusion driver in Nigeria with over 350 billers plus 20,000 active agents carrying our transactions worth over ₦1 billion monthly. So far, creating employment and adding to national development. That we recorded over 45 trillion naira value in transaction activity in 2019. Partner with more than 60 financial institutions with over 600 million transactions annually. Enabling donor funding for international organizations. Providing verification and payment of pensions of over 90,000 retired officers. We are second to none in payroll automation and IGRO collections, government and MDAs. Our licenses and switching capabilities speak volume. We are eTranzact International PLC. We are a fintech company ready to partner with you using technology to solve all your complex business solutions, providing world-class products, services and solutions, simplifying payments, supporting the economy for national development. Bank it, switch it, corporate pay outlets, pocket money, Credo, eTranzact, premier e-payment solution provider.
Hey, what, Tumi, you want to say something?
I realized that the beginning of that presentation, that video was not audible. Basically, what that video speaks to is eTranzact. We are super fintech.
To financial
right?
institutions,
What we do, we
government
enable other
parastatals, and
fintechs
other corporate bodies. Do
complete
you
their
know that since
transaction. That we provide
2003, we
service
have been
to government institution, private institution. Payment is our core. Now, the way we come to play, especially in this African linkage project, exchange project that we're talking about, is every player in the industry, we actually need payments, a payment platform to complete their transaction. And that is where we come to play. We make payment easy, both online on the mobile, you can do that on the web. The same thing applies to, even when you don't have internet, USSD today is a means of payment. You can do that on your social media and all that. eTranzact provides that opportunity. And to other fintechs, we enable their payments. Everything you are doing, we are the point to go to. That's what this video is actually talking about.
Okay, thank you for your pitch, Emmanuel. Fantastic. Well, the conversation continues, so we're all going to integrate not just the platforms, but also at an individual level, we'll interact and see how we can move the African continent forward in terms of providing the right infrastructure and the right arrangements to ensure that we can transact capital businesses across the various markets. At this point, I think I would like to introduce the Director of Research of Proshare. He's Mr. Said Karibe. Mr. Karibe recently conducted the 7th annual online trading ranking report for Proshare, which looks at online trading and how the various companies have performed in terms of delivering customer expectation. Mr. Said Karibe, could you kindly proceed with your presentation? Thank you very much. Mr. Said, can you hear me? Mr. Said, can you hear me? You have 10 minutes.
So, good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, good afternoon.
Yes, I want to quickly share insight from the 7th online trading report survey. The first insight I want to share is about trading in the Nigerian financial market. How often does our respondent trade in the market? About 50% of our respondents claim that they trade when they get insight about stocks. Over 23% claim that they trade daily, while a few below 10% claim that they trade when they get advices from their brokers. The next insight is on the percentage of income that our respondents invest in the market. Between 5 to 10% of our respondents claim that they invest about 42% of their income in the market. Between 10 to 10% of our respondents claim that they invest about 30% of their income in the market, while below 30%, about 29% specifically, invested about 20% and above in the market. On what our respondents expect when they choose an investment option. Overwhelmingly, about 68% expects capital appreciation, while about 30%, about 20%, expects dividend returns. In terms of the term our investors prefer to invest for, about 62% invest for long term, while about 38% invest for short term. So, also about 38% of our respondents claim that they discovered the platform through which they trade in the market through the company itself, while about 24% claim that they discovered the platform through word of mouth or ASA. Basically, also some 18% discovered their platforms through online adverts. Also, on what our respondent looks out for in terms of the platform they trade on, basically about 72% they look out for easy trade execution, while about 12% look out for research and report, while a few below 10% look out for recommendations, and a very minor of about 3% look out for data, market data. Also, in terms of securities being traded on some of these platforms, overwhelmingly about 69% trades in equities, forex, while about 14% trades in forex. Basically, cryptos has a very minor percentage of traders, which is less than 5%. And lastly, on how responsive their broker has been to their inquiries, overwhelmingly about 70% claim that their brokers has been very responsive, while over 24% has been fairly responsive. But for non-responsiveness and not so responsive, the data has been quite minimal. Thank you for listening. You can also get further insight from the online trading report that will be released in a few days. Thank you.
Thank you, Said. That seems to provide us with some insight into how customers or clients of various trading houses think about their services. It's interesting to see that the fact that if you look at the people who said that they are very responsive, it's very close to what we had when we did our spot poll here, where we looked at a lot of people saying that from fairly responsive to very responsive were in the majority compared to those that said they're issuing houses or broking houses non-responsive. So it does seem to suggest that the Nigerian capital market operators are doing quite well in responding to consumers' desires. Although within the context of a broader Africa, there's still a lot of work to do. But the Nigerian market does seem to suggest that the CMOs, the capital market operators, are not doing too badly. Right, so I think we should just quickly move on to the next segment of this webinar, which is basically the Q&A session. A few questions are actually coming, and I'll take these questions segment by segment. So whoever is going to answer the questions must have raised issues around the topic area he or she was allotted. So I think I'll start off with Now, the question that came is, would the African Continental Linkage project be a nightmare concern for Nigeria Security and Exchange Commission? In other words, do you have, as it is today, the present capacity to be able to integrate into a continental framework that allows for payments and settlements and the clearance of securities? They're asking whether it's going to be a nightmare situation. And then the next question, same thing for my brother, is does government, central banks, and financial asset clearing houses have the infrastructure required to unify African exchanges? I think to add on to that, when we talk about a unified African exchange, are we talking about one African exchange, or are we talking about a community of exchanges that are linked? I'm going to ask CSCS to respond to this question. I'm giving you a very short time to respond to it. So that's 2 to 3 minutes.
Okay. Thank you so much for those questions. I'll try and take the second question first. In terms of, do we have the capability to support a unified exchange system? I think the answer is capital yes. And if you look at what has happened in some other markets, particularly in developed markets in Europe, this is something that has been very beneficial to the market in terms of liquidity. And for us at CSCS, we're pretty much positioned and prepared for this. We'll be happy to support the initiative. And I think it's also important to say that having a unified market, it's not necessarily collapsing all of the markets in Africa into one. Rather, it's about access to the market, providing access to the market through linkages. And I think that that's an important thing that we need to bring out from these conversations, that the whole essence of having a unified exchange or having a unified market is not necessarily collapsing all of the different markets in Africa, be it bringing South African exchange, Johannesburg Stock Exchange, and Nigerian exchange together as one. Rather, it's about the accessibility of investors to the different markets and how flexible is it for the investor to trade on one market and the other. And this is what I think it's important, particularly within the African continent. And for us at CSCS, we're pretty much prepared for that. And I think Lina actually provided even some guidance around the governance structure that is being proposed by the African Exchange Linkage Project, which is being sponsored and overseen by the African Development Bank. And I think that also speaks to the fact that the different CSDs, the different central securities depositories, would continue to function as they were. But what is important is the ability to be able to support investors and to be able to support the custodians of the assets who are operating, be it on behalf of the institutional investors or the HNIs or retail investors, in terms of custody of those assets, in terms of the safekeeping, and in terms of the clearing and settlement of those instruments. I think what is important, and I think the most important leg, is the cash settlement. So there are two parts to settlement in the securities market. One part is the cash settlement, which is the payment of the cash. The other is the settlement of the securities. Settlement of securities pretty much only requires linkages of the CSDs. Where I think the major challenge lies is about the fungibility of the African currencies and the ability to be able to ensure that we're able to exchange and make payments and source for the relevant currency. So for example, today, we're going to be settling, for example, transactions in Kenyan shilling. How do we source the Kenyan shilling, for example, particularly if we're going to be talking about the fungibility and accessibility of investors across the African continent of the different exchanges. And I think that's where the African Development Bank, that's where AFRESIM is doing a lot of work. And that's where I think all the market participants need to come together to see how best we can structure this in a way that's efficient, that would also ensure that the transaction cost to the ultimate investors are also reduced to the barest minimum, because that's really a major challenge today, because what you find today is most African currencies in terms of cross exchange rates are pretty much expensive. So what you find is when you want to settle in Kenyan shilling, for example, people would convert Naira into dollars and then convert dollars into shilling. So rather than having to do that, incur two-way cost on the exchange rate, why don't we just have a settlement infrastructure, for example, provided by, say, an Afrexim or an AFDB, or maybe one of the international banks that can provide direct exchange. And the central banks in each of the countries also need to be willing and able to support such infrastructure as well. And that's where I think the really issue really lies. In terms of whether or not we're capable to do this, we are capable to do this. Most of our peers in Europe, for example, Euroclear, actually use the same technology that we use today in Nigeria, and they do have the capability to be able to clear across multiple markets. And that's why for us at CSCS, we're already positioned for this in terms of technology, in terms of people, we have it. In terms of relationship with different CSDs, we're a critical member of the Association of CSDs in Africa and Middle East, and we're happy to work with our colleagues across the different countries within the African continent to be able to make this happen. And that's why we don't think this will cause any nightmare for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Abiola. Thank you very much. It's exciting. It's exciting times for the African continent and the African capital market segment. I want to quickly go to eTranzact. Emmanuel, we've listened to the CSCS talk about the challenges in terms of payments and settlements. Does eTranzact have any idea about where we should be moving going forward in terms of clearing and settlements across the continent? And are you putting anything in place, or are you collaborating? Because this is an age of collaborating with people to provide those solutions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shitta. Today, we partner with other banks across the Sub-African region to a kind of enable movement of funds in and out where value can easily be exchanged. Now, and how do we do this? It's very easy where you have, today we still use the cross exchange rates, which is what Mr. Hakim Razaq was talking about. But that's the point, that's what is still available to everybody. That's what is the general means of exchange now, the exchange, the cross exchange rates. That's what we use. Now, but like he rightly said, today it's easy if we come together to have a common ground, decide on how we intend to settle transaction, what value do we want to be using in certain transaction. And that brings me back to the issue of blockchain. Blockchain, I'm talking about cryptocurrency. How can this help in facilitating transactions around this environment? How can we use what we have to ensure that payment is very easy? In each country, Nigeria today, we are one of the fastest instant value giving in terms of digital payments. How can we ensure this cut across all other African regions? This is what we are all looking at. Now, but today you can make use of your card. If you are using card to make payments, obviously the cross exchange rate will apply. The conversion from dollar to any other currency you are trying to transact or trade in will also apply. So for us, there is need for us to unify that currency aspect. How can channels to make payments? We have a lot of them. We have on the web, we have on the mobile, we have across different channels. But that exchange value, which is the most important aspect of it. I think the central bank of each country in Africa, we need to come together, agree on that common ground, and decide on what we want to use. That will help us to facilitate easy settlement of cash for online trading and transaction.
Okay. I would like to bring in my brother from the NASD. We got in a question that asked whether it's possible to execute transactions without a broker, and then you could perhaps use the regulatory platform of the CSCS. Is this a viable option? Would you suggest it as meaningful in the context of trading across countries? Basically, they want to do without brokers. I think problem is, I think the problem primarily is costs. And they feel that, isn't it possible just to go on your phone, do your transactions, you don't need to go through a broker, and there's this platform that allows you to do all you want to do. So you're clearing, your settlement, everything is done digitally. Yes, Mr.
So, can you hear me? And it's been
Yes,
it's been a very interesting discussion all morning. I've been listening to it. Now, can you trade without a broker? You can trade directly on a market, yes. You can trade various securities and investment instruments from your phone, absolutely. The rules that exist, however, are such that only brokers can access the markets, because there are certain rules that govern markets, and there are certain certifications that need to be done before you can access and trade on that market. However, the brokers, and with technology nowadays, the brokers can enable you to trade directly on the market on your own account. So you go through a broker account. Essentially, think of a pipeline. You have a limited number of pipelines going into the market. You cannot have all comers coming in. You have to ensure settlement. You have to ensure clearing. There has to be a structure and an order to the market, and there are rules governing the market. So the brokers would make sure that those rules are adhered to by the investors. The broker is responsible for what the investors do on the market. However, the investor can take their own destiny and their own funds into their own hands, absolutely. So you do not need a broker to say, all right, buy this, or Mr. buy that. However, you do need to go through a broker portal because you don't have access into the market. So can you do without a broker on the market? I believe you can trade through a broker, but I believe that brokers are necessary to have on the market, absolutely.
Okay, great. Also, could you, there's a question here, but it says, does Nigeria's OTC market see a way to be part of a unified continental exchange? What are the expectations and actions towards making this happen? So is the NASD, for instance, plugged into the whole concept of linking the exchanges? And what is it doing precisely to make this happen?
So now I heard a question earlier on, or a point of discussion earlier on that was talking about, are we talking of one market, the African market, or are we talking about a federation or a collaboration of various exchanges? I think there will be, I think what should happen is a federation of exchanges as opposed to one unified market with one managing director and one this and one that. I think a federation of exchanges is important and necessary because they all cover different areas. As you can see, even within Nigeria, you have multiple exchanges and they all cover different areas. I think where it becomes, I won't say difficult, but where it gets a bit confusing is if you have multiple exchanges trading exactly the same instrument. And then you get arbitrage in between, and then it probably isn't as efficient because you're now really duplicating things. However, if you have a federation of exchanges that are trading different instruments, for example, if we want to buy something, or if as a portfolio manager, if I want to buy something that is in the Kenyan market, I should be able to from here. That's the idea. It, however, is listed on the Kenyan market. We probably, all exchanges will need to get similar or complementary technology that would interface with each other seamlessly. That probably would be the objective. And there probably will be a governing body that would oversee the administration of that technology, that would deploy that technology across the various exchanges. So I think it is a great idea for there to be a federation. I think each market will probably have different pricing rules. By having a single market, you will have the same pricing rules applied to each one of them, which again removes from the diversity and coverage of the market. Now, that, however, does not directly address your question, which is NASD keyed into this initiative? Of course, as it unfolds, all markets will key into it because there's ability to key in. All markets would, again, it depends on the affordability of the technology. It depends on what the technology can spread to do. But again, technology makes things more accessible. So if it's just a matter of getting a couple of APIs and linking those APIs into your market, and then people can see your market and decide to trade a particular instrument in your market, then by all means, very quickly, all exchanges will come into it. Very quick. Onboarding will be fast. So the more complex it is, the slower you would get for this unified market. The less complex it is to get in without the, you can create barriers to entry. I think the idea here is to reduce the barriers to entry. So by reducing the barriers to entry, onboarding is going to be a lot faster. And the rules will be set out quite easily. So we're very happy and very excited about this opportunity. And when it does come, and when the parameters for joining into the unified market come, of course, I think every single exchange would want to be part of it. We would be, definitely.
Great. My next question wants to go to Tumi, FMDQ. I hope it's online. I have a question for you. The question is, let me see that question now. Yeah. What technical and regulatory actions do you think will be required to build a strong continental debt market? Now, we have strong individual markets across Africa. Nigeria is one of the most vibrant of the debt markets. But if we want to go across markets, if we want to trade in debt instruments across markets, what do you think are the regulatory and infrastructural or other challenges that need to be overcome to make that seamless? So I can be in Ghana and I can trade Nigerian debt. I can be in Johannesburg. I can trade debt. As a matter of fact, I can be in Egypt and still trade South African government debt instruments. What are those hurdles we'll need to cross?
So I thank you for the question. I think maybe the main hurdle really would be on the FX, like currency conversion angle of things. In terms of regulatory, I wouldn't necessarily say it's a hurdle to cross, but what I would say is there has to be collaboration between the different regulatory authorities in the different jurisdictions. Chances are they probably have the same, similar kind of maybe framework around their regulations and things like that. But having that synergy and, if you will, agreement on how the regulation should be across, the different jurisdictions, or having that, almost maybe having something like a central body like you have in the EU would help things quite a bit and ensure that that sort of process is seamless. So it's about the regulators talking to one another. Yeah.
Seems quite a reasonable response to the issues. And I guess we'll be handling them as they evolve. As issues come up, we'll find solutions to it one way or the other. The important thing is ultimately that Africa has a very vibrant cross-border debt instruments market. Thank you very much, Tumi. Now, Lina, I'm going to wrap up with you, actually. We've listened to the various participants. You've sold the arguments concerning the exchange linkage program. Your closing thoughts, what would they be after listening to all we've said?
All right, thank you very much. I think my closing thoughts are that, there's a lot of, African institutions and African initiatives that are working towards a common goal. And that common goal is really to integrate Africa. And, there's a lot of partnership required throughout the system because it has to work like a, well-oiled engine. So I'm very pleased with the discussion. Every panelist has, highlighted the work that they're doing towards achieving this goal. And so my other point is that really, in regards to to consumer experience and also, access to online trading platforms. It points out that, the African investor is a young generation or a young investor. And, out of the 38% that was shown in the survey, 38% of investors do short-term investments. So what AELP and generally market integration in Africa would do best to address is, quicker ways of accessing funds, quicker ways of investing, and also just basically facilitating and making trading more accessible to this generation, and in general, just making trading easier across borders. So it has been a great discussion, and I'm very pleased with all the work that is being done by the different entities in Nigeria and in Africa in general. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to say something quickly here. All our speakers, could you kindly put on your cameras so that we can take group pictures? This is a digital age, so it doesn't mean we can't take group. So everybody should kindly put on their cameras. Ajomale, I can't see you. Tumi, I can't see you. Abiola, come on, put on your camera. Let's see you. Let's see everybody so that we can take group pictures. Yeah, that's the way we take group pictures in the COVID period. So that we are, yes, Mr. Ajomale, fantastic. You're looking really cute. Yeah, good. Yeah, my brother. Rolu, Rolu, you were hiding. Why were you hiding now? So let's take our group pictures. Rolu, please come back. You disappeared again. Please, Rolu, come back. Are you adjusting your time? Come back. Yeah. Let's see you. All right, great. My folks in the technical unit, please, could you take pictures? This is one of several pictures we are going to take together, so it's not a problem. But just take the first one and enjoy the moment. Right. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm sure pictures are taken by now. Thank you very much. I'm going to hand over now to the host. Grace, over to you. Great. Grace, I hope you can hear me.
Yes. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us till this time. I think the only section we have left is the giveaway, where we have to just seed our lucky winners for the reports. So I'll quickly share my screen so we can all together see those that have participated and those that would be winning the reports that would be given away. Okay. Okay, I hope you can all see my screen. So we have 22 people participated, and we've downloaded the. So we have all of the respondents here. Okay, so using our usual Excel formulas, we'll try to pick at random 5 persons. So I'll be using the random selection process. Between 1 to 22. Okay, so we have the arguments. I think would have to just do you have to use an alternative selection process. Wow. So I think we'd have to pick at random at this time while we are trying to sort out the formula. Yeah. So let's do that at random. I would want one of the speakers. Lina, please kindly choose at random from 1 to 22. Who would you like to, for us to give away one of our reports?
Sorry, I'll choose number 10.
Or hello, Lina.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
All right, I'll choose number 16.
Number 16. Okay, congratulations, Abiola Awotele. Yes, thank you. You are number one participant that will be giving away one of our reports. Miss Tumi Sekoni, kindly do us the honors. Second person.
I'll choose number 4.
Number 4. Okay, that's Ajomale. Thank you very much. Mr. Emmanuel.
I'll choose number 6.
Number 6. Okay, that's Olumide Akinyoju. Congratulations. Mr. Razaq, are you still on call?
I'll choose number 10. Thank you.
Okay, number 10. Thank you. That's Olutayo. Congratulations. And last but not least, Mr. Ajomale, kindly do us the honor.
Lucky number 7.
Number 7, perfect number. Bola, congratulations. Thank you so much, our speakers. Thank you so much, our sponsors, CSCS and eTranzact, for being with us today and for giving your time and resources to enable us achieve all that we have today. It's really been an insightful session, and I hope we have so much that we can take back, and all of the participants that we are not able to respond to their questions, we will ensure as much as possible to send you direct responses via email. Thank you so much for your time, and do remain blessed and keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the day. Cheers, man.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Provider to financial institutions, government parastatals, and other corporate bodies. Do you know that since 2003, we have been at the forefront of providing and enabling all forms of payment on behalf of our numerous customers spanning all sectors of the economy? Do you know that we are the first operational multi-application and multi-channel electronic transaction switching and payment processing company in Nigeria? Do you know that we have been enabling Nigerians and Africans Nigerians in diaspora send money back to their families. Do you know that we pioneered the USSD payment solution in Nigeria and created other innovative payment channels? That we are the award-winning agency, banking and financial inclusion driver in Nigeria, with over 350 billers plus 20,000 active agents carrying our transactions worth over ₦1 billion monthly. So far, creating employment and adding to national development. That we recorded over 45 trillion naira value in transaction activity in 2019. Partner with more than 60 financial institutions with over 600 million transactions annually, enabling donor funding for international organizations, providing verification and payment of pensions of over 90,000 retired officers. We are second to none in payroll automation and IGRO collections, government and MDAs. Our licenses and switching capabilities speak volume. We are eTranzact International PLC. We are a fintech company ready to partner with you using technology to solve all your complex business solutions, providing world-class products, services and solutions, simplifying payments, supporting the economy for national development. Bank it, switch it, corporate pay outlet, pocket money, Credo, eTranzact, premier e-payment solution provider.